Chapter 355. Holding a bottle of vodka in his hand, the werewolf gnawed on a roasted deer leg that was sizzling with oil. He stood up, opened his mouth, and said in a muffled voice, "Commander-in-Chief, my old friend, do you want to taste the elk meat I hunted?" "Wolf King, I'm here to deliver you a piece of unfortunate news." The commander-in-chief's chiseled face was full of sorrow as he sighed. "What? Could it be that Andre was injured in the battle?" "That's normal, my commander-in-chief. Werewolves are a fighting race. They have experienced pain and frustration since they were young." Wolf King Alexander was 3 meters tall. His head was almost touching the roof of the tent. He finished a bottle of vodka in one breath and burped heavily. "Master Qiao died in Huaxia, including your nephew Andre." The commander-in-chief's eyes were red as he said in a heavy tone. "What?" Wolf King was stunned. He waved his big hand and smashed a solid wooden table wrapped in iron sheets. He clenched his fists and roared in disbelief, "Who killed him? Was it Yi Zhantian? I'm going to kill him. I'm going to avenge Mr. Qiao. It's not him. It's a strong man named Kang Taichu from Huaxia." The commander-in-chief's face turned solemn. He said in a low voice, "I understand your deep friendship with Master Qiao and your grief and indignation at this time. But don't avenge him. Mr. Emperor and the higher-ups of the KGB have determined that this challenge has failed. They have asked the winter soldiers not to set foot in Huaxia for 10 years. Why? This is the shame of our winter soldiers and the werewolves. This shame can only be washed away with blood. I'm going to tear that monkey into pieces." Wolf King roared angrily, his eyes turning red. "Mr. Wolf King, this is an order." A layer of anger appeared on the commander-in-chief's face. He said earnestly, "This Master Kang is already half a step away from the immortal state, or even the immortal state. And there is no immortal state in Russia." Wolf King said in a muffled voice, "What if the wolf ancestor is born?" "What? Didn't the wolf ancestor die in that battle?" The commander-in-chief was shocked. He couldn't believe it. He has the undying bloodline and is incomparably powerful. How could he die so easily? The Wolf King smiled mysteriously and muttered to himself, "It's just that it's been too long since a deity realm expert has appeared. What's the point of him coming out? But now, it's completely different." Singapore, Prime Minister's residence. "Mr. Prime Minister, I've said before that the video of Master Kang's battle is very blurry. The officials didn't release the video. Only someone called The Observer released a candid video." The Red Boat Mage opened a laptop in a trendy manner and logged into an ID called Small Boat Drifting in Southeast Asia. He looked at Li Xianlong beside him and said helplessly, "I still have to watch it. I should have personally gone to watch Master Kang's battle and cheered for him, but I was tied up with government affairs and couldn't go." Li Xianlong rubbed his hands together excitedly like a loyal fan and said with a smile, "Mage, your ID is very cute." "I'm sorry, Mr. Prime Minister. I just wanted to express my love for Southeast Asia." The Red Boat Mage blushed slightly. "I'll never tell you that I have another ID called Invincible Beginning. I love you. I'm a monk. I've jumped out of the 3 realms and the 5 elements. I'm a Taoist master and was once the Grand Preceptor of Singapore." The video started. "Oh my god. Xiaobin can fly, so can Yi Zhantian. Damn it, this fish. Oh my god, why is Xiaobin so energetic?" Li Xianlong began to exclaim. He didn't have the majesty of a ruler. Instead, he was like a 3-year-old kid. Then he was dumbfounded. Grand Preceptor Jiang is so awesome. Oh my god, he's so awesome. He's a god. He's sucking their blood." After watching the video, Li Xianlong slapped his thigh and laughed proudly. No wonder he's the Grand Preceptor of Singapore. He even defeated the founder of Russia's Winter Soldier. Our country's prestige, our country's prestige. He was overjoyed. Singapore was known as one of the 4 little dragons of Asia. It was an emerging economy. However, in terms of international influence and overall national strength, Singapore was no match for a superpower like Russia. At the same time, the martial arts world between the two countries had a lot of friction. However, the Chinese Society of Singapore was no match for the Winter Soldier. For many years, the Winter Soldier had looked down on the Chinese Society of Singapore. On the other hand, Wang Chongyan had been hiding in his shell. He didn't dare to make a move against the Winter Soldier. However, in this battle, the newly promoted Grand Preceptor defeated the founder of the Winter Soldier. Li Xianlong and many other senior officials of Singapore felt a sense of exaltation. They straightened their backs and straightened their backs. They immediately regarded Grandmaster Jiang as a national treasure and a national hero. After this battle, Master Kang's name will be known throughout the entire martial arts world. This also fully demonstrates his strength. He's an immortal state expert. Red Boat Venerable Master narrowed his murky eyes and said in a deep voice, he already has the strength to challenge East Asia. He already has the strength to dominate East Asia. His next step will probably be to make a move on South Korea's Tanjun and the Cherry Blossom Association. What? Grand Preceptor Jiang is going to destroy Sakura Society. That's great. If Master Kang really does it, he'll be the greatest Grand Preceptor in the history of Singapore. He'll also be the benefactor of the Li family. Li Xianlong was so excited that tears started to form in his eyes. If Russia and Singapore's martial arts world were only at odds with each other, then Singapore and Japan were mortal enemies. During World War II, the Japanese had once occupied Singapore and carried out a purge in 1942, killing as many as 100,000 Singaporean Democratic Salvation Army members. Li Xianlong's grandfather had also died in that massacre. After receiving the news, Sixth Old Man Fan was so shocked that he couldn't sleep for a few days. Originally, he had already received news of Jiang Tian's goodwill from Zhan Long and the military, but he didn't respond because he wanted to be reserved. He was still wondering if Kang Tae-chu had another reason for massacring Jinling. Was it not because he was powerful? Otherwise, why would he suddenly express goodwill? Did he have a chance to fight back? But this time, he couldn't sit still anymore. He was so shocked that his soul almost left his body. He gathered all the public relations personnel under his company overnight and wrote a sincere letter. He claimed that everything was a misunderstanding, that he had eyes but failed to recognize the real person, and that he deeply regretted it. He entrusted the Huaxia Empire's military to hand it over to Jiang Taichu and even presented a check of $10 billion, saying that he was willing to turn hostility into friendship with Master Jiang. At the same time, Sixth Old Man Fan also summoned all of the leaders scattered around the world to the headquarters on Big Turtle Island and gathered thousands of people to guard the place. He also purchased a large number of modern weapons from the arms dealers, including radars, cannons, helicopters, and countless guns and ammunition. At the same time, more super organizations around the world were discussing intensely on the dark net. They were mainly discussing the power displayed by Jiang Tian. Is Kang Tae-chu an immortal state warrior or not? In fact, there were also overlords who were skeptical. The so-called immortal state warrior has unparalleled soul energy and can interfere with reality. His words are the law. Wang Zhongyan claimed to be half a step away from the immortal state warrior, but he didn't seem to have reached this level. Can Kang Tae-chu prove that he is an immortal state warrior by killing him? There were tens of thousands of comments under this post. It could be said that all of the overlords in the world were paying attention to it. Wang Zhongyan cultivates both fire energy and martial arts and is comparable to half a step away from the immortal state warrior. Xiao Bin is definitely half a step away from the immortal state warrior. After all, he only said a few words during the battle and the lake water within a few hundred meters was frozen. It can be said that words are the law. He absorbed the blood of a dozen overlords and pushed himself to the peak of half a step away from the immortal state warrior. He was only a step away from the real immortal state warrior. Kang Tae-chu killed him. If he is not an immortal state warrior, then what is? The ID, Invincible Taichu I Love You, supported Kang Tae-chu with such certainty. I believe that Kang Tae-chu has the strength to do so. Absolutely. Below, there were a lot of comments. Most of them agreed with, Invincible Taichu, I love you, but there were also some who disagreed. Whether Kang Tae-chu has the strength of an immortal state warrior or not, I think everyone will know soon. Suddenly, the observer appeared again. Why? The observer is here. Please explain. Everyone was excited and waited for him to speak. I've said before that Kang Tae-chu defeating the Singapore Chinese club is only the first step towards the international stage. Kang Tae-chu can be said to be the most powerful person in the martial arts world in the past 100 years. His goal is definitely not the current one. He has a bigger plan. The observer quickly typed a line of words. Then what organization is he going to challenge? Below, there was a sudden exclamation. Big Circle. Palace of Gods. Blue Storm. Cherry Blossom Society. It could be said that Kang Tae-chu's next move was even more shocking. Everyone was on tenterhooks. Which one of these super organizations was not a giant? They were incomparably powerful. Which one of them had a large number of experts? Just the mention of it made one shudder. Big Circle. In Kang Tae-chu's eyes, the current Big Circle is just an ant that he can kill with a slap. It's not worth his time at all. After Apollo's death, the Palace of Gods once expressed goodwill to Kang Tae-chu. Kang Tae-chu is not a rash person. He knows how to unite and make use of the majority. This can be seen from the establishment of the Heaven Alliance in Huaxia. Let's not talk about whether Kang Tae-chu has the strength to challenge the Palace of Gods. At least in the short term, Kang Tae-chu will definitely not clash with the Palace of Gods. Blue Storm's strength is not inferior to many organizations. However, it mainly relies on technology and has no immortal state experts. Kang Tae-chu will not attack them either. The observer's last sentence was, the Cherry Blossom Society has many immortal state experts. Moreover, there has always been friction between the Japanese and Huaxia martial arts worlds. Once Kang Tae-chu attacks them, it will be the best way to prove his strength. It will also be the easiest way to gain the support of Huaxia's martial arts world. The Cherry Blossom Society. If he defeats the Cherry Blossom Society, Kang Tae-chu can be called the #1 expert in East Asia. Is Kang Tae-chu going to attack the Japanese Cherry Blossom Society? My broadsword is unable to endure the thirst again. For a moment, the forum was in shock. Everyone's eyes were wide open. They were so excited that their faces were flushed red. Their minds were almost in a mess. Chapter 356. On the other hand, Jiang Tian, who was in the eye of the storm, was living a peaceful life as if nothing had happened. Although Jiang Tian had decided to go to South Korea and Japan, Jiang Tian wanted to spend time with his family since he had not returned from Singapore for half a year. In the next few days, Jiang Tian was like a family cook in the Fulong Mountain Villa. He cooked for everyone, took care of the spiritual herbs and spiritual medicine, and guided the people under the Heaven Alliance in their cultivation. He was living a carefree life. The Fulong Mountain Villa was almost a manor with 7 or 8 villas. All the core members of the Jiang family lived there. The Fulong Mountain array hid the wind and gathered the water, making the area rich in spiritual qi. His grandfather, parents, and sister Ziwei's cultivation had improved rapidly. They were all inner force martial artists now. Even though Jiang Tian's aunt and the rest only cultivated some simple meditation techniques, they had the strength of an iron body. Not only could they live to 100 years old, but they could also easily deal with ordinary assassins and mercenaries. Other than that, Shen Mange and Phantom Kick were guarding the villa. Ordinary people would not be able to enter. One day, Jiang Tian's mother called and said that Jiang Tian's aunt was accompanying her to a business event. She asked Jiang Tian to pick Jiang Weiner up from school. Are you kidding me, Mom? I'm really busy. Jiang Tian was speechless. I have to train you in advance and learn how to educate children. When you have a baby with Qinger, it will be easier for you, right? His mother's reason was very reasonable. Jiang Tian could not reject her. Okay. You're right. Mom is the most important. Jiang Tian had no choice but to ask for Jiang Weiner's school and class. He then drove away from the Fulong Mountain Villa. On the way, there was a sudden downpour. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The wind howled, and the trees swayed. Jiang Tian looked at the weather app on his phone. The temperature had dropped to 20 degrees Celsius. He thought to himself that the weather was weird. He had forgotten to bring Jiang Weiner some clothes. It was the end of July, and Jiang Weiner seemed to be wearing thin clothes in the morning. He wondered if she would catch a cold. Jiang Weiner's school was the third primary school in Jinling's Yuhua district. It was one of the best public primary schools in Jinling. She was only 5 years old and had entered the school a year early. It was said that her aunt had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to get her into the school. However, when he arrived at the school gate, Jiang Tian looked at the clean and elegant classrooms and felt that the money was well spent. It was already 6:00 in the evening, but the children still hadn't come out. The school gate was jammed with cars, and many parents were holding umbrellas and clothes, waiting anxiously at the school gate. What happened? Jiang Tian got out of the car with an umbrella. He pulled a parent over and asked, "Why aren't the children out yet? Didn't you read the teacher's notice?" The parent looked at Jiang Tian in surprise. "Oh, I'm here to pick up my relative's child. I don't know the situation," Jiang Tian said. "Isn't Jinling planning to create a national health city?" That parent gave Jiang Tian a cigarette and sneered, "Today, the inspection team from Jinling City came to check on the third elementary school, so the children were left behind. That's not right. What does the creation of a healthy city have to do with children? It's time to get out of school. Look at the weather, it's so cold." Jiang Tian waved his hand to reject the cigarette and said with a frown, "Look, bro, you don't work for the government, right?" The parent looked at Jiang Tian in surprise. "Yeah, I work for a company." Jiang Tian smiled and said, "Formalism kills people." The parent bit the cigarette and lit it. He smiled and said, "My name is Meng Ruijiang, I'm a police officer. To tell you the truth, I'm the captain of the criminal police in the Yuhua district. However, I have to be like these ordinary police officers. I have to clean the streets, pick up trash, and catch criminals. Over at the third elementary school, in order to get the approval of the inspection team, they are going to let the children perform. Look at that stage." Meng Ruijiang blew out a mouthful of smoke. "What the? Are you kidding me? An outdoor stage? It's raining so heavily, and the children are going to get wet?" Jiang Tian looked at the stage facing the school gate and frowned. He was very unhappy. At this time, the black iron gate opened. A group of children holding umbrellas and flowers lined up on both sides of the school gate. Their faces were smeared with rouge and water, and they were as red as a monkey's butt. There was a red dot in the middle of their foreheads. What era was this? There was still such a strange aesthetic. Jiang Tian was very helpless. A middle-aged man who looked like a school leader walked out. There was also a young and pretty female teacher holding an umbrella for him. It made his position as a school leader seem very high. He put his hands behind his back and said arrogantly, "Parents, please wait patiently for a while. This inspection is related to the school's honor. Move your car to the side, don't block the inspection team's leader." "Understood, understood." The parents were angry, but they didn't dare to say anything. They looked at the children with pity, but they still nodded and smiled. "This person is the principal of the third high school, Chen Shichuan. He's also a strange person." Meng Ruijiang said with a mocking smile, 10 years ago, he was just an ordinary teacher in a small town. His teaching skills weren't very good. He was a weirdo who could pronounce entertainment place as music place. But in just a few years, he was transferred to the county, and then to the city. Then he became the principal of the third high school. Don't underestimate a small principal like him. He stretched out 5 fingers mysteriously. 500,000? That's a high salary. Jiang Tian clicked his tongue in amazement. Little brother, you're underestimating him. 5 million. Meng Ruijiang's words were shocking. Holy shit, is this for real? How can a principal of an elementary school have such a high salary? Jiang Tian was shocked. He suddenly felt that the salary he gave Huang Linger's father was a bit low. Yuhua District's third high school is the best elementary school in Jinling. Who knows how many people in Jinling want to go there? The houses in this district can be sold for 40,000 per square meter. The school selection fee is at least 500,000. Meng Ruijiang shook his head helplessly and said with a bitter smile, in addition, they also have to give money. They also have to ask for permission from the leaders. They have to ask for permission from the leaders. In order to let my bastard son go to this school, I put 5 years of bonus into it. It was all exchanged with my life. Isn't this Qin Shichuan's standard not very good? How did he become the leader of this school? Jiang Tian said with a smile. As much as I can bear, I can't bear it. Meng Ruijiang smiled and said, I heard that when he was transferred from the county to the city, he went to the city's education bureau to ask for permission. After all, it's not easy to transfer. He just happened to meet the education bureau's director who had hemorrhoids, so he went over, and sucked the pus out with his mouth. This guy is definitely a talent. Jiang Tian was speechless. He was completely convinced. At this time, Qin Shichuan walked to the children and reprimanded them, Children, overcome the difficulties. This is a test of your character, a test of your hardworking spirit. The leaders will be here soon. Applause must be warm. How do you shout the slogan? Do you still remember? Welcome, welcome. Warm welcome. The children rhythmically shook the flowers left and right and shouted in unison. The slogan must be warm and tidy. We have to let the leaders feel our enthusiasm. Do you understand? Qin Shichuan's face became serious and said with an evil look, whoever performs badly will have their conduct points deducted. If you are a good student, then don't talk about it. The children were so scared that they trembled and didn't dare to make a sound. At this time, Jiang Tian noticed that Jiang Wan was also called out by a female teacher. The little girl was standing at the door with an umbrella in her thin clothes. She was shivering in the cold wind and rain. Her small face was bitter, and it seemed that she had just wiped away her tears. Brother Meng, let's talk later. My child is out. Jiang Tian quickly walked over with an umbrella. Cousin, I'm a little cold, Jiang Wan looked at Jiang Tian with tears in her eyes. Her whole body was shivering and her eyes were filled with tears. Jiang Tian touched Jiang Wan's forehead. It was hot. It was probably 39 degrees. He quickly took off his coat and put it on the little girl. He took her hand and found the teacher in charge of the class. Teacher, I'm Jiang Wan's parent. My child has a fever. Can I ask for leave? I can't make the decision. You have to talk to Principal Qin Shichuan. The teacher was obviously a little afraid of Qin Shichuan. Jiang Tian was helpless. He walked to Qin Shichuan, lit a cigarette and said, Principal Qin, my child has a fever. Can you leave first? How can that be? Qin Shichuan did not even look at Jiang Tian as he pushed the cigarette away and frowned. Not a single person can be missing. The welcome line is neat and tidy, and the height is also particular. It won't look good if someone is missing. It will leave a bad impression on the leaders. Let the child hold on. Jiang Tian frowned and smiled apologetically. Principal Chen, the children are not scenery or objects. What's there to look good or not? The school has to be responsible for the children's health, right? Am I the principal or are you the principal? Qin Shichuan anxiously roared at Jiang Tian with a pale face. He then ignored him and gave orders to the various school leaders and teachers. He said, "Be sure, get out if you can't do it, and, be responsible, like a big leader." He had completely forgotten about Jiang Tian. After giving out a few orders in succession, he suddenly looked at the empty seat left by Jiang Wan, and shouted like a thunderclap, "Which class are you in? Hurry up and make it up. You look like an old lady with a broken tooth. Don't you think it's ugly?" Jiang Wan, Where did you go? Hurry up and make it up. The teacher in charge of the class was so scared that he was sweating and quickly shouted, "Cousin, don't worry. I can hold on." Jiang Wan, looked up at Jiang Tian. She wiped her tears and said obediently, "Then you won't have a fever if you keep this pill in your mouth. Don't swallow it, or you won't be able to stand it." Jiang Tian had no choice but to let her keep a qi-nourishing pill in her mouth to nourish her body so that she would not have a fever. He did not want to be angry in front of Jiang Wan. It was not good for the child's growth. He also did not want to make their relationship stiff. If that happened, Jiang Wan would have to transfer to another school. The strange environment would not be good for her physical and mental development. Jiang Wan held an umbrella and joined them. Chen Shichuan pulled off Jiang Tian's coat that the child was wearing and threw it to Jiang Wan's class teacher. He scolded, "What's the matter?" He repeatedly emphasized that we must wear the uniform and must wear the school uniform. Jiang Tian's face suddenly sank and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Chapter 357. President Chen, she caught a cold and has a high fever. Jiang Weiner's class teacher explained weakly. How high can her fever be? Is she burned to death? What will the leaders think if they see her not wearing the school uniform? Is this our school's appearance? We are known as a militarized management. There is no organization and discipline. You can't even handle such a small matter. If you don't want to work, then get out. Chen Shichuan scolded the class teacher fiercely, and the class teacher's eyes were shining with tears. Jiang Weiner was so scared that her face turned pale. Also, the rain is getting lighter. Put away all the umbrellas. All the teachers put away the umbrellas. Chen Shichuan was not done yet. He let out another thunderous roar. The children were like marionettes. They handed out their umbrellas one after another. Their weak bodies were straight, and their hands were stuck to the seams of their trousers. They were like yellow leaves in the wind and rain, shivering. Chen Shichuan nodded with satisfaction and tightened his suit. At this moment, he also felt a little cold. Alas, the child will definitely get the gonorrhea. Damn, formalism kills people. Why is he wearing so much and holding an umbrella? Some parents were very distressed, but they just scolded in a low voice. They were angry but did not dare to say anything. It was not easy to enter this school. No one wanted their children to lose the opportunity to study here. They could not lose the big picture for the small. Jiang Tian frowned and clenched his fists again. A wave of anger was rippling in his chest. He could not hold it anymore. Jiang Weiner, what's wrong with you? What are you holding in your mouth? Are you eating snacks? Spit it out. Suddenly, Chen Shichuan pointed at Jiang Weiner and roared loudly. It's not snacks. It's the pill my cousin gave me to cure my cold. Jiang Weiner was so scared that her face turned pale. Her tears were shining, and she weakly defended herself. Bullshit pill. How can the pill not be bitter? How can you hold it in your mouth? Spit it out. Chen Shichuan pointed at her nose and sternly reprimanded her. Look at you. What do you look like? Your grades are garbage. You failed 3 subjects, and your conduct is bad. You should be like a primary school student. You don't deserve to study here. If you do this again, I will expel you. Jiang Weiner had to spit out the pill and put it in her trouser pocket. Did you see that? It's the skin pill, right? You little brat, can you hide from my eyes? In the future, everyone should take this as a warning and keep a distance from such poor children. Chen Shichuan rambled on. A crooked stick will have a crooked shadow. It's not entirely the school's fault that such a bad student appeared. It's also the responsibility of the parents. Parents are their parents' first teachers. At this point, he looked at Jiang Tian with disdain, as if Jiang Tian was a delinquent youth. Come on, brother, don't be angry. Bear with it. This was how he behaved. He was extremely arrogant. Aren't we doing this for the child? Meng Ruijiang pulled Jiang Tian, gave him a cigarette, and lit it for Jiang Tian with a lighter. Jiang Tian covered his head and smoked. He could only pray for the event to end quickly. After waiting for another 10 minutes, a fleet of 3 Audis finally arrived. The parents finally heaved a sigh of relief. The inspection team had finally arrived. Welcome, welcome. Warm welcome. In the warm and orderly welcome of the children, a group of leaders got out of the car. President Chen, sorry to keep you waiting. The leader was a middle-aged man with a big belly. He reeked of alcohol and his eyes were hazy. It seemed that he hadn't woken up from the alcohol at noon. He shook hands with Chen Shichuan cordially and strode into the school. Seeing this middle-aged man, Jiang Tian frowned. This person had a big mole on his lip and a tuft of black hair on it. Jiang Tian felt that he had seen this person somewhere before. The inspection team took a few casual glances and came to the small playground facing the school gate. They sat down and enjoyed the children's dance performance. Jiang Wan changed into a dance costume and went on stage with a few little girls. Braving the wind and rain, she performed a ballet of Swan Lake. Her little face was blue from the cold. But the leaders all had teachers and students to help hold umbrellas. They drank hot and fragrant tea and smoked cigarettes. They were very happy. Who is this person? The one with a big mole on his lip. Jiang Tian pulled Meng Ruijiang and said. He is Zhang Wenzheng, the second in command of the Municipal Health Bureau and the leader of the inspection team. Meng Ruijiang curled his lips. He didn't seem to have a good impression of this person, but it was inconvenient for him to say more. Zhang Wenzheng. The second in command of the Municipal Health Bureau? Why does it sound so familiar? Jiang Tian frowned again. He had a bad feeling about this. At this time, the performance in the yard was over. The supervisory team and the school leaders from both sides walked out with umbrellas, looking like the host and the guest were having a good time, talking and laughing. The children also ran to their parents to drink water and put on clothes. Many of them had a cold and fever. Jiang Wan's class teacher went to Jiang Tian and said, "Congratulations, parent. The leaders of the inspection team want to have dinner with the children in the evening to learn about the children's learning and living conditions." Jiang Wan was also chosen. What dinner? I don't want it. Jiang Tian saw that Zhang Wenjing seemed to want to hold Jiang Wan's little hand. He smiled and said, "This little girl is so cute. How old are you? Come, let uncle hug you." Jiang Wan turned her head to look for Jiang Tian in the crowd and ignored him. Zhang Wenjing's face was a little embarrassed. Jiang Tian saw Zhang Wenjing's greedy and evil eyes. His heart suddenly thumped and he remembered everything. In his previous life, in 2010, a major case of sexually assaulting a young girl broke out in Jinling. Several officials were involved, including Zhang Wenjing. Chen Shichuan was also one of the organizers. It was said that the case actually happened in 2006. The evil deeds continued for many years, and many parents sued. But Zhang Wenjing had a powerful background and had been suppressing it. The evil deeds continued. One after another, pure and flawless flowers roared and cried powerlessly under the hands of evil, in endless despair and fear. They withered silently in their ignorance and were crushed into dust. Hell was empty, and the devil was in the human world. Several parents who asked for an explanation were suppressed and arrested for causing trouble and disrupting social order. It was not until 2010 that the case was completely uncovered when it was posted on Weibo and attracted strong social attention. What's wrong with letting Uncle Zhang hug you? Chen Shichuan pulled Jiang Wan'er's arm. Jiang Tian got rid of the teacher and walked quickly to block Chen Shichuan's arm. He frowned and said, "Forget it, Wan'er doesn't like to interact with strangers." He did not plan to settle the score with them now. Now that the Jiang family was in power in the Jiangsu province, it would only take a few words to deal with these bastards. After the trip to Singapore, Secretary Fan of the Jiangsu province asked Secretary Yu to pass a message to Jiang Tian many times, but Jiang Tian did not care and refused. Chen Shichuan's face became cold and he shouted, "What stranger? Look clearly, this is a superior. We have to have dinner together tonight." "Forget it, Secretary Chen, don't make things difficult for him." Zhang Wenjing smiled and said generously. "What's there to make things difficult for? It's an honor." Chen Shichuan pulled Jiang Wan'er again. Jiang Tian's face darkened again. He blocked him and frowned. "Get out of my way. Little comrade, is it difficult to have dinner with me?" This time, Jiang Tian's voice was louder, and Zhang Wenjing's face darkened. "Is there something wrong with you? Why are you so stupid? You don't know how many people want to interact with the superior." Chen Shichuan was excited and pulled Jiang Wan'er's arm again. "Can't you cooperate with us? The superior does not mean any harm. He just wants to know about the living conditions of the children." Next to them, two members of the supervision team surrounded them and looked like they were going to rob them. Jiang Wan'er was a little scared when she saw the principal pulling her away and the two strangers surrounding her. She had a fever and a cold, so she was not feeling well. Now that she was scared, she could not take it anymore. "Wah!" She burst into tears. Jiang Tian quickly picked her up and fed her a pill to nourish her qi and clear her body heat. He smiled and said, "Wan'er, don't cry. Don't cry. Let's go home now." At this time, Chen Shichuan and the others could not do anything, but one of them, who was probably Zhang Wenjing's secretary, scolded angrily, "What the hell is this? Shame on you." Chapter 358. Seeing this, Jiang Tian finally couldn't stand it anymore. He shouted coldly, "Who wants to eat with him? Who does he think he is? He's trash. My Wan'er is 100 times more valuable than him." As soon as he said that, the whole room fell silent. How dare this young man scold a deputy director like that? Zhang Wenjing also blushed. He had a powerful background in Jinling City, and he had never been insulted like this before. He glanced at Chen Shichuan. The latter immediately told him that Jiang Wan'er's parents seemed to run a Chinese medicine factory, but he didn't know which one. A Chinese medicine factory. Zhang Wenjing chuckled disdainfully and didn't bother to say anything more. The Health Bureau was responsible for formulating the local Chinese medicine development plan and promoting the development of Chinese medicine industry. It could be said that he was the living hell in the eyes of many Chinese medicine factories. No one dared to offend him. Zhang Wenjing didn't say anything because of his identity. However, Chen Shichuan pointed at Jiang Tian's nose and scolded, "Get out of here now. Your child doesn't need to come to class tomorrow." Jiang Tian turned around and left. Meng Ruijiang came over with the child and grabbed Jiang Tian. He said with a smile, "Deputy Director Zhang, do you agree with Chen Shichuan's words?" Zhang Wenjing turned his head and ignored him while smoking. Meng Ruijiang was a little angry. He said indignantly, "The child has been suffering from the cold for so long, and you still let him drink with you. What kind of behavior is this? Do you deserve the title of national cadres and servants of the people?" Chen Shichuan's temper rose. He pointed at Jiang Tian and Meng Ruijiang and scolded, "Why are you so arrogant? Get out of here. You're Meng Wu's parents, right? Your child doesn't need to come to class tomorrow." Meng Ruijiang was also afraid that Jiang Tian would ruin Jiang Wan's studies, so he pulled Jiang Tian away. Chen Shichuan pointed at Jiang Tian again and scolded, "Boy, what are you staring at? Are you not convinced? You're like a hooligan." Jiang Wan stared at him with her big bright eyes. "You're a bad guy. My cousin is not afraid of you." After being held in Jiang Tian's arms, Wan stopped crying. The little girl was like a fox pretending to be a tiger. Perhaps in her heart, her cousin was very, very powerful. In Singapore, there were many people who had been defeated by him. Jiang Tian had already walked to the side of the car when he suddenly stopped. He ignored Chen Shichuan and turned to Zhang Wenzheng. "Zhang Wenzheng, I want you and Chen Shichuan to apologize to me, Lao Meng, and all the children and parents right now." Zhang Wenzheng was stunned. Looking at the serious face of Jiang Tian, he couldn't help but smile and shake his head. Chen Shichuan laughed heartily. "You're really awesome, aren't you? Did you not sleep well last night? Are you having hysteria? Apologize to you guys? How dare you say that? Ha ha ha. Alright, you're not going to apologize." Jiang Tian handed Jiang Wan to Meng Ruijiang and said gently, "Old Meng, I'm going to hit someone. Cover the children's eyes." "Ha!" Meng Ruijiang subconsciously took Jiang Wan and gave a confused "ha" with a look of astonishment. "Uncle Meng, don't cover my eyes. I like to see my cousin hit people." Jiang Wan looked excited and expectant. Jiang Tian walked over with majestic steps and kicked Chen Shichuan's chest fiercely. Meng Ruijiang saw Chen Shichuan soar into the air, his body flying more than 10 meters, and heavily crashing into the already closed iron door. Creak! The iron gate was dented in a terrible arc. Bang! 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 Several fixed rivets of the iron gate, which were deeply embedded in the marble gate, fell off abruptly. Chen Shichuan couldn't be arrogant anymore. Like a dead dog, he slowly slid down the iron gate. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his chest was dented. He passed out. "You dare to hit people?" Zhang Wenzheng was shocked and his face was livid. He pointed at Jiang Tian and didn't know what to say. "Well, yes." Jiang Tian answered indifferently and raised his hand to slap Zhang Wenzheng's face. Whoosh! Zhang Wenjing spun like a top and flew 7 or 8 meters away. He fell into a pool of water, dropped his umbrella on the ground, and fainted. Is this man crazy? How dare he hit people? Isn't he afraid of being arrested by the police? Madman, he must be a madman. Call the police quickly. The rest of the leaders looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. They only felt that this man was like a madman. Although they were muttering, they kept their voices down and didn't dare to stop Jiang Tian. They were afraid that he would beat them too if he heard them. Jiang Tian glanced at the leaders and smiled calmly. It's easy to catch me. My name is Jiang Tian. I work in the Sunshine Research Laboratory of the Medicine King Group. I live in the Fulong Mountain Villa. I'm waiting for you to catch me. Domineering and fearless. Arrogant. The officers were so shocked that their faces turned pale, as if they were little chicks that had encountered an eagle. They hurriedly took a few steps back while trembling. Jiang Tian took Jiang Weiner from Meng Ruijiang's arms and looked at him. Officer Meng, do you want to arrest me? I'm not working, so you should leave quickly. Meng Ruijiang quickly waved his hand and said in his heart. Fortunately, you took action. Otherwise, I would have made a mistake. Jiang Tian carried Jiang Weiner, got into the car, started the engine, and drove away. Jiang Wan, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, smiled and said, Cousin is the best. Look at them, they seem to be afraid of you. In front of Weiner, Jiang Tian wasn't modest. He nodded and proudly said, Whoever bullies my Weiner, I'll make them pay the price. Jiang Weiner nodded hard and said, Before this, I beat a few male deskmates who bullied me until they cried. My mother even scolded me. Brother is the best. Jiang Tian jumped in fright, thinking that this girl shouldn't develop in the direction of a little tyrant. He hurriedly said with a sullen face, "You're not allowed to bully other students in school. If someone bullies you, tell your cousin." Okay. Weiner's face was bitter, but she still nodded obediently. Jiang Tian called his mother on the way and told her what happened. "Oh, I know. Don't worry. I'm done here. Let me deal with it." Zhang Wanqing didn't care at all. The Jiang family was no longer what it used to be. They could do whatever they wanted in Jinling and even in Su province. They had connections in government, the underworld, and the business world. Some time ago, Secretary Fan called to apologize to Jiang Tian for standing on the wrong side in Singapore. The current Jiang Tian could be said to be suppressing a province by himself, like an emperor. This kind of scum among the leaders, so what if he beat them up? After she hung up Jiang Tian's call, she called the head of Jinling and told him what happened. The other party expressed a deep apology to Jiang Tian and promised that they would immediately investigate and deal with the matter. They would not tolerate the black sheep of the cadre. Late at night, Jinling 3rd People's Hospital, Intensive Care Unit. Zhang Wenzheng was wheeled out of the operating room with 3 broken ribs. Fortunately, the broken ribs did not pierce his heart, so there was no serious internal bleeding. He was also sent to the hospital in time. Otherwise, he might have died on the way. Even so, physical pain was unavoidable. The doctor said that he had to rest for at least half a year and couldn't do strenuous exercise. Zhang Wenjin grimaced in pain, but he still shouted angrily, "This kid is too cruel. I want revenge, I want revenge." His wife comforted him with a pained expression, "Wenjing, don't worry. Our brother-in-law is here. There's no one in Jinling that our brother-in-law can't deal with. Don't worry about it. We've already sent people to catch him." Zhang Wenjing's brother-in-law, the second in command of the Jinling Police Department, Du Min, puffed on his cigarette with a pale face. He was too angry today. This murderer called Jiang Tian really didn't know his place. He even dared to beat up his brother-in-law. How was this beating Zhang Wenjing? This was clearly a slap to his own face. Chen Shichuan beside him reported the situation, "Director Du, that kid is too crazy, too violent. He attacked without saying anything, I couldn't stop him. And that guy called Meng Ruijiang, he didn't even stop him. He just let him hit him and left after he was done." Beside him, Du Mingtao said with a dark face, "Dad, this is intentional injury. It can even be counted as murder. How can we let him go?" Headmaster Chen, Jiang Tian. "Which Jiang Tian? What unit is he from?" Meng Yao interrupted. She and Du Mingtao had just confirmed their relationship. She heard that Du Mingtao's uncle was heavily injured, so she came to visit with gifts. This time, Meng Yao suddenly realized the power and connections of House Du in Jinling. In the 3 hours of the operation, almost all the heads of the big committee in Jinling came to visit. There were more than 10 people, and most of them were department-level officials. The corridor was filled with gifts. Even some of the leaders in the province sent their secretaries and clerks to visit. The 7 aunts and 8 aunts of the Du family all held important positions in the government, and they were in every department. Originally, she was a little dissatisfied with Du Mingtao because she had seen Jiang Tian's monstrous might. But now, she realized that choosing Du Mingtao wasn't a bad choice. House Jiang was rich, but that was all. In Huaxia, the people didn't fight with the government. How could Jiang Tian compare to Du Mingtao? Yes, he was close with Su Ruocheng and other people in the society, but people like him should be more afraid of the government, especially the police. She felt that an official family like the Du family was the real rich and powerful family. Fortunately, nothing happened between her and Jiang Tian. Otherwise, wouldn't she have missed out on Du Mingtao? That would be a huge loss. However, when she thought about Jiang Tian's arrogant appearance, she felt very unhappy in her heart. She wondered if she should let the Du family investigate Jiang Tian after she had a close relationship with Du Mingtao, to let him know his weight. He said himself that he's from House Jiang's Yaowang Group's Clearski lab. Chen Shichuan scratched his head and said uncertainly. What? House Jiang from Yaowang Group? Du Min's heart skipped a beat. She was so scared that her legs were cramping. Her face was pale as cold sweat dripped down her forehead. Yeah, this person is my classmate in university. He's the young master of Yaowang Group. Meng Yao was still a little surprised as she reported the situation to Lin Yi. Could it be that even Du Min was afraid of Jiang Tian? Why was it that when he heard the words Medicine King Jiang family, it was as if he had heard a death sentence? Chapter 359. What? The Crown Prince of House Jiang. Du Min's heart raced as she felt her blood pressure acting up. What's wrong? Chief Du. The secretary quickly went up to help her up. Du Min pointed at Chen Shichuan, pounding her chest. How could you piss off House Jiang? Are you guys crazy? House Jiang has a lot of influence with the provincial government. Deputy Lin's daughter, Lin Menghan, is pretty cocky, isn't she? She's like a mad dog, biting whoever she wants. She even got fired from the police force after trying to arrest Jiang Tian. Chen Shichuan's eyes widened in disbelief. You can't piss this guy off. It's not just me. Even Deputy Lin and Secretary, you can't piss him off. You've screwed me over. What? This Jiang guy's that big of a deal? Chen Shichuan's head was buzzing, and his legs were shaking. He knew he'd gotten himself into big trouble. Du Min ignored him and took out her phone with trembling hands. She quickly dialed the number and shouted, "Retreat. Retreat now." What? You're at the entrance of Mount Fulong? You guys didn't do anything, right? That's good, come back now. Of course not. I'm telling you, I'll shoot anyone who dares lay a finger on that Mr. Jiang. Be quiet, don't make any noise. His face was as white as a sheet as he hung up the phone. He let out a long breath, looking as if he'd just recovered from the shock. He patted his chest as he wiped off his sweat, smiling like an idiot. That scared me to death. Thank goodness they didn't do anything, thank goodness I called in time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to keep my Dai Hualing. Meng Yao, on the other hand, was in disbelief. Jiang Tian. Someone that even the provincial government didn't dare piss off. Someone that scared Du Min to this extent. Du Min's phone rang all of a sudden. He looked at the screen, almost crying. It's from the municipal government. It can't be about House Jiang, can it? Meng Yao's eyes were wide as saucers as well. Jiang Tian hit a person, and even the municipal committee number 1 spoke up for him. Du Min hurriedly answered the phone, nodding and bowing. Leader, what can I do for you? Ha, I didn't expect such a small matter to disturb you. Yes, it's my brother-in-law. What? It also involves the prostitution of young girls. He was immediately filled with righteous indignation. How could this bastard do such a thing? Too vile. Huh? I really don't know. How would I dare to cover for him? If I had known, I definitely wouldn't have tolerated him. I would have been the first to capture him. Don't worry, I'll do it now. Du Min hung up the phone and snorted like a cow. Then, she lifted her leg and kicked Chen Shichuan's waist. Chen Shichuan, ouch. He fell to the ground and shouted, Director Du, why did you hit me? I will beat you to death. Du Min hated the heavens, the earth, and the air. She even had the heart to kill someone. She kicked Chen Shichuan again and again, each kick fiercer than the previous one. Chen Shichuan was like an old dog, crying and rolling on the ground. Fuck, you even played with young girls. Are you still human? You are worse than beasts. Du Min scolded as she hit him. You even dragged my brother-in-law into the water. Now, the Commission for Discipline Inspection has its eyes on me. I think you are a jinx. After the beating, Du-min called a few police officers over. She pointed at Chen Shichuan, who was barely breathing, and said, "Arrest this person and bring him back to the police station. Interrogate him properly. Director Du, you can't turn your back on me. I have helped you with 3 admissions." Chen Shichuan still couldn't believe it until he was handcuffed. He didn't even understand why Du-min, who had always been his brother, suddenly turned hostile. He begged bitterly, "Please let me go this time. You brat, wait to be shot. This time, no one can save you." Du-min was too lazy to care about him. She let him be taken away. She took a deep breath and said, "Put the suspect, Zhang Wenzheng, under surveillance. Interrogate him in the ward immediately and record his statement." "Isn't he your brother-in-law?" His secretary suggested. "Do you want to think of a way to mediate?" "Mediate my ass. If I don't arrest him, I will die with him," Du-min shouted. She hurried the police officers to handle the case quickly. The police officers quickly carried out the order. Du-min pulled Meng Yao and said, "Meng Yao, you know young Master Jiang, right? Can you introduce us to him? You have to do this well. If you can save Dad's position, you and Du Mingtao will get married immediately." "Oh, uncle, I will try." Meng Yao's eyes were dull. She replied in a daze. She didn't feel good in her heart. Du-min didn't think highly of her at first. She thought that she was climbing up the Du family's social ladder. She didn't agree to this marriage at all. But now, just because he was acquainted with Jiang Tian and was able to talk to him, Jiang Tian was doing everything he could to curry favor with him, lowering his voice and thinking highly of him. At this moment, she vaguely realized that the 2 words, Jiang Tian, meant a lot in Su province. Not to mention her boyfriend, Du Mingtao, even Du-min couldn't compare to him. Oh my god, what did I miss back then? Meng Yao's mind was in a mess. She couldn't hold it in anymore. Her eyes were red and she was about to cry. She was afraid that she would cry in public. She said that she needed to make a call and left the hospital in a hurry. A few days later, Zhang Wenzheng, Chen Shichuan, and the rest of the brothel gang were investigated. There were a total of 13 underage girls who were victims. The evidence was conclusive. The crimes were too numerous to be recorded. The case shocked the whole country. Zhang Wenzheng was sentenced to death with a reprieve. Chen Shichuan was sentenced to 20 years in prison. The other people involved in the case also received heavy sentences. The citizens of Jinling clapped their hands and cheered for the Jinling police's thunderous action. Of course, to Jiang Tian, these people were only ants that he could casually slap to death, and he would casually deal with them when he encountered them. He didn't take them seriously at all. He spent some time with his family and taught his friends and family about martial arts. He stabilized the situation in Jinling. Jiang Tian gathered all kinds of spiritual herbs, and with the help of the Hidden Dragon Mountain Formation, he began to make pills and break through again. "I was originally at Qi Refining Stage 4, and I've already converted it to 7th Metal True Yuan. But I've been stuck at this level for a whole year. There's no other way. I'm too lacking in resources. Now that I've gathered quite a lot of spiritual herbs from the Hidden Dragon Mountain and the herbs from the Hidden Dragon Mountain, it's time to make a qi-enhancing pill and break through." Jiang Tian placed the herbs in front of him. He smiled and nodded in satisfaction. These herbs were the first batch to mature after the Hidden Dragon Mountain Formation was completed after the Spring Festival. Why is this Winqim grass so mature? It's already 30 years old. Jiang Tian was surprised. Even with the Hidden Dragon Mountain Formation, it shouldn't have matured so quickly. Next to him, Zhao Xueqing smiled and pointed at Huang Linger in the herb field outside the window. "Hubby, look at her, what's so good about her?" Jiang Tian avoided her gaze and looked around. Suddenly, he was stunned. She already has qi. She's also cultivating. And her progress is very fast. She's actually reached the physique refining stage. I taught her. This girl's physique is very special. She seems to be very sensitive to the aura of the wood attribute. She's absorbing the overflowing aura of the herbs to cultivate. Qing'er smiled, and a trace of joy flashed in her beautiful eyes. She was still a little in disbelief. Moreover, when she uses her cultivation method, she can even stimulate the vitality of the herbs and speed up their growth. That winchim grass, under her care, has 30 years of medicinal properties in just half a year. It's about to mature. I'm really surprised. It turns out that she has an invisible wood spiritual root and a yi wood spiritual body. She can cultivate wood attribute cultivation methods. Jiang Tian saw this and nodded slightly. A trace of shock flashed in his eyes. Chapter 360. Although it's not an immortal body, her aptitude is not bad. She can even surpass that girl Ling Long. It seemed that Qing'er was right to bring this girl to the medicinal field. It could be said that she was making the best use of her talents. Let's start refining. Qing'er, use the Phoenix Eyes Leaf Fire. Jiang Tian smiled and began to refine the pills. Whoosh! Qing'er activated her cultivation method. 2 golden flames suddenly jumped in her clear beautiful eyes and shot out. They turned into the most brilliant furnace fire, enveloping the spirit herbs and great herbs. The flames from the immortal body were extremely powerful. They were even purer than the legendary 3 true fire and far better than the various strange flames that existed in the natural world. Suddenly, the essence of heaven and earth in the herbs was immediately extracted and turned into colorful medicinal liquids, which quickly condensed into a ball. Especially the medicinal liquids in the winchim grass, which were wrapped in spiritual energy that far surpassed other herbs. It was vast and deep, rich and dense, so thick that it was almost solid. Moreover, the surroundings emitted thousands of rays of light, thousands of auspicious colors, making this area almost like heaven on earth. This powerful medicinal property, 1 drop could make an ordinary person's physique evolve and a carp turn into a dragon. Qing'er and Jiang Tian's minds were connected. She could control the temperature and quantity of the leaf fire according to Jiang Tian's wishes. Balls of colorful medicinal liquids floated in the air, gathering and rolling. The shape and medicinal properties were undergoing strange changes. In the end, they turned into red pills and rolled around before falling into the jade bottle. Not bad, you actually refined more than 50 vitality enhancement pills. Jiang Tian held the jade bottle in his hand and looked at the ruby-like soul-augmenting pill. He smiled and said, "This is a supreme-grade pill that far surpasses the essence-gathering pill and other pills. It can greatly increase my cultivation. Qing'er, let's each take half and refine it." "No, I'm now at the 6th level of qi refining stage. You're only at the 4th level. You take it all." Qing'er gently refused. Okay. If I don't study for a day, I won't be able to catch up with comrade old Zhao. Jiang Tian was touched, but he was not pretentious. When husband and wife are of one heart, their sharpness can cut through metal. When the 2 of them fought against the same enemy, they had to maintain a balance in their cultivation so that they could bring out their strengths. They could not afford to be too far apart from each other and lose the balance. Following that, Jiang Tian swallowed pills every day and patiently refined them. The essence-augmenting pill was indeed overbearing. Very quickly, Jiang Tian broke through to the 5th level of qi refinement. The true yuan in Lin Yun's qi sea surged like a tide and swelled to twice its original size. Once he activated the gung metal art, his skin would turn a strange golden color and emit rays of golden light. This meant that he was getting closer and closer to mastering the gung metal divine body. Even now, he could withstand dozens or even hundreds of heavy artillery bombardments. His body had become stronger, and he could break through the sound barrier without any hindrance. Moreover, his movement speed had also increased. His divine sense also grew stronger. Pushing out, he could easily cover a distance of 20 kilometers, or even further. Unlike before, it could only cover a few kilometers at a time, and the limit was no more than 10 kilometers. After this breakthrough, swallowing medicinal pills again would not have much effect. That was because the foundation of the 5th level of Qi refinement was still unstable. He needed to continuously strengthen his foundation through battle before he could break through again. It's time to deal with the Cherry Blossom Association. On this day, Jiang Tian finished his meditation. His eyes flashed, and he planned to set off for South Korea and Japan. The Japanese Cherry Blossom Association had coveted the Jiang family's non-existent map of the ruins of immortality for half a century. They were indeed mortal enemies. In his previous life, it was under the Cherry Blossom Association's instigation that the Nye family and the other 2 families defeated the Jiang family, bringing endless humiliation and regret to Jiang Tian. It could be said that the Cherry Blossom Association was the real mastermind. The Nye family and the other 3 families of Jinling were just puppets. Now, Jiang Tian was very confident in his own cultivation. He never fought a battle unprepared. If I face a half-step immortal state expert like Xiao Bin now, I don't even need to absorb his blood essence. I can smash him into dust with a slap. He won't be able to reform his body even if he wants to. I can even kill a real immortal state expert with a flick of my finger. As long as I don't use nuclear weapons, I can even take on the modern army of a superpower. Apart from that, killing the Japanese experts, the tempering of blood and fire was also very beneficial for Jiang Tian to stabilize his current cultivation. This time, I'll use the heroes of the Cherry Blossom Association as my punching bag. With that thought in mind, he gazed into the distance. That was the direction of Japan. Who would have thought that before he even left, Li Jinju would impatiently come to his door on this day? Master Kong, we can't wait any longer. The fate of the Tanjun family is in your hands. In the living room of the Fulong Mountain Mansion, Li Jinju, the goddess of South Korea, prostrated herself before Jiang Tian like a believer meeting a god. She was extremely respectful. She pressed her hands on the floor and pressed her forehead against her hands. She was on all fours as she begged. Ever since she saw Jiang Tian kill Xiao Bin with the blood coagulation ball at Moling Lake, her trust and admiration for Jiang Tian had deepened. She firmly believed that with Jiang Tian's peerless power, there was nothing he couldn't kill. If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten about Tanjun. Very well, I'll help you take back the Tanjun family first, then I'll go to Japan. Jiang Tian agreed and stood up. Honey, let me go with you this time. Zhao Xueqing pulled Jiang Tian's hand into the study and said with a smile. No need. It's just a small Japan. I can defeat them all by myself. You have to take good care of the family. Jiang Tian said with a smile. Now that he had the divine gunmetal body, he was not afraid of ordinary firearms unless it was a nuclear explosion. Don't worry. I'm here. Nothing will go wrong. Zhao Xueqing didn't insist. Men were in charge of external affairs while women were in charge of domestic affairs. This was a Chinese tradition. For some ordinary families, the women should take care of the logistics so that the men could work hard without any worries. To them, it was the same. As long as the rear of Jinling was stable, Jiang Tian could be at ease and sweep everything in his way. Of course, Qinger, you're at physique tempering stage 6. Whoever comes here will be courting death. Jiang Tian smiled proudly. Oh right, take this flying shuttle too. Zhao Xueqing took out the flying shuttle from her storage ring and said with a smile, don't be in a hurry to reject it. You're going in alone this time. It's always good to have a Dharma artifact with you. All right. Jiang Tian's heart was filled with warmth. This girl is too virtuous. He smiled and took it. Mr. Jiang, please give me your identification. I'll book the flight tickets. Li Jinju said hurriedly when Jiang Tian came out of the study and returned to the living room. What flight tickets? We'll fly out on the flying sword. Jiang Tian shook his head and waved his hand. With a flash of black light, the little black flying sword turned into a huge sword that floated in the air like a sampan. This is a flying sword? Li Jinju was shocked and her beautiful eyes almost popped out of their sockets. She didn't even notice where the big black sword was, but it appeared out of thin air like magic. It was too magical. Can this really fly? Li Jinju looked at the flying sword curiously. Where's the power unit? Why isn't there a jet hole? There's also no propeller. Tanjung was the god of creation in South Korean mythology. The beliefs and legends of Tanjuan's lineage actually originated from Huaxia's Confucian and Taoist sections. They incorporated and accumulated, forming their own country's myths and legends. Li Jinju loved reading Huaxia novels like In Search of Supernatural and Legend of Shu Mountain Swordsman. She knew about the legends of sword immortals and flying swords. However, she only thought of it as a legend. She didn't expect it to appear in front of her. It's comparable to a supersonic plane. Why aren't you getting on? Jiang Tian stepped on the flying sword and looked at Li Jinju. Looking at the bare flying sword, Li Jinju's aura was a little frightened. There was no cabin. If she accidentally fell down, wouldn't she be smashed into meat paste? However, she was the successor of Lord Tan after all, so she still had some knowledge and courage. She gritted her teeth, and a trace of determination appeared on her pretty face. She stretched out her slender and beautiful foot wearing crystal high heels and stepped on the flying sword. Close your eyes. It's too fast. You won't be able to take it. You'll feel dizzy. Jiang Tian said lightly. Yes, master. Li Jinju closed her eyes obediently and grabbed Jiang Tian's waist with both hands. Go. Jiang Tian said in a low voice. Suddenly, the little black flying sword shot into the sky like a rocket. After the flying sword shot out of the villa, it suddenly accelerated under the control of Jiang Tian's divine sense. Bang! It broke the sound barrier. The hilt of the flying sword pulled out a fan-shaped air turbulence. It was white and misty like a mist. The tip of the sword pierced through the air and created a series of sonic booms. The friction with the air distorted and blurred the void. Li Jinju only felt a rustling sound in her ears. She felt as if she was riding on the clouds. There was a moment of dizziness. She felt as if she had been punched heavily. Her body suddenly rose. That should be the feeling of being overweight. Instinctively, she shut her eyes tightly. She could only hear the howling of the wind beside her ears, like the wailing of ghosts and howling of wolves. However, she couldn't feel the wind blowing, nor did she feel cold. She was very puzzled and asked, Master, can I open my eyes now? Yes. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said, but you better be mentally prepared. You might get a shock. Oh, it's so high. Li Jinju boldly opened her eyes. She only opened them a little and then let out a cry of surprise. This was definitely the most brilliant and gorgeous fantasy journey of her life. The scene in front of her was too shocking. She couldn't believe it. Between the vast and boundless heaven and earth, the clouds tumbled like angry waves, forming the shape of gods and demons. Under the blood-red illumination of the setting sun, all of them were smeared with layers of red. The deepest part was as thick as rouge, and the lightest part was as pink as peach blossoms. Li Jinju never knew that there were thousands of different kinds of red in the world. Every kind of red was so soul-stirring, so touching. Along with the howling wind, the sea of red clouds was like lava. It was constantly rolling, changing, condensing, and dispersing. Suddenly, from the thousands of different kinds of red, there was a trace of golden edge. It was as if golden fish were leaping out of the Red Sea, transforming into wings and flying freely. Occasionally, a gust of wind would tear a few gaps in the sea of clouds. Looking down through the gaps, the entire Jinling city was under Li Jinju's feet. Chapter 361. Tall buildings the size of pigeon cages radiated resplendent splendor. The originally wide road had now become a small stream of interweaving traffic. Pedestrians had become ants, and vehicles had become the size of matchboxes. As if they had been extracted from the mortal world, only the two of them remained in this magnificent world. The surroundings seemed to be extremely noisy, the wind incessantly tearing at their eardrums. It also seemed to be extremely quiet, so quiet that there wasn't the slightest bit of earthly noise. They could only hear each other's thumping heartbeats. Looking up, the azure color of the sky above the giant transparent bowl gradually dissipated. The curtain of night hung low, and the stars in the heavens sprinkled between the clouds like raindrops. So beautiful. Master, you're so strong. Li Jinju felt her heart about to melt. Her mind was free, and she was even more grateful to Jiang Tian. She originally knew that Jiang Tian had abilities that surpassed ordinary people, but she absolutely didn't expect that her master was actually so awesome. His cultivation had reached such a miraculous realm, and he was actually so powerful. Moreover, she suddenly understood why Jiang Tian was indifferent to the fate of Lord Tanjuan's lineage. In front of such a breathtaking spectacular scene, everything in the mortal world became incomparably laughable. Any struggle was as insignificant as the struggle of ants. Hee, this is nothing. Jiang Tian didn't take these things to heart. In his past life, he had only been a step away from Hongmeng Shindu. Even if he wasn't Hongmeng Shindu and was only a foundation establishment cultivator, a light flick of his sleeve could ascend to the heavens and dive into the earth, causing landslides and tsunamis. That was true valiance. Li Jinju tightly hugged Jiang Tian's waist and asked curiously, but what I find strange is that we're so high up, so why aren't we cold? It's still pretty warm. Jiang Tian laughed and said, try stretching your hand out. Yi Yingluo boldly reached out with her jade hand. As she passed through a translucent air cover, she had a slight feeling of obstruction, as if she was reaching into glue. In the next moment, her small hand reached into the cloud. She immediately shrieked and retracted her hand. Seeing a handful of snowflakes in her hand, she shrieked, so the clouds are made of ice crystals. I activated a Zhenyuan barrier to protect us. Otherwise, with this speed, the strong wind would have blown people into facial paralysis. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said, there's a wind barrier here. You don't need to hug me, you won't fall. Oh, recalling that Jiang Tian had a lover, Li Jinju felt a little sour in her heart, but she still reluctantly let go of him. They flew quietly for a while. Li Jinju gradually calmed down and said with a smile, what other abilities does this flying sword have? Master, can you show me? Seeing that she was gradually getting used to it, Jiang Tian immediately increased his speed by a notch. He continued to accelerate, decelerate, stop, change directions, spiral 360 degrees, rise vertically, rush vertically to the ground, and stop abruptly. One by one, Xiao Hei's flying sword made a series of movements that would make a fighter pilot dumbstruck. Ah! In the beginning, Li Jinju could still barely maintain her composure, but in the end, there were only screams left. During several supersonic spinning maneuvers, the huge centrifugal force made Li Jinju suspect that she would be ruthlessly thrown out. However, the black sword under her feet produced a strange attractive force that firmly sucked her to the sword. Stop quickly. Master, I beg you. Li Jinju's shrill screams were torn apart by the strong wind, and she didn't know if Jiang Tian could hear it. In the next 5 minutes, Li Jinju experienced the most thrilling flight of her life. Needless to say, they approached the speed of sound again and again in 1 second, and then came to a strange standstill in 1 second. Needless to say, Xiao Hei's flying sword carried her to the middle of the atmosphere in only half a minute, and they almost broke free from the Earth's gravity and rushed into the endless starry sky. In the last 10 seconds, they rapidly swooped down from a height of several thousand meters. Both the person and the sword turned into a high-speed drill bit. Only when they were less than 1 meter from the ground did Xiao Hei's flying sword suddenly stop and change directions, and then shot forward at lightning speed. Li Jinju was so shocked that her heart almost jumped out, and she almost went into shock on the spot. Blurg. When Xiao Hei's flying sword finally reached a uniform speed again, Li Jinju's face was paler than a person who died 3 days ago. She clutched her stomach and started to vomit. Jinling was 1,800 kilometers from Seoul, the capital of South Korea. 1.5 hours later, the flying sword arrived. They found a Hilton hotel. Jiang Tian landed the flying sword in a secluded alley nearby, and the two walked out together. Master, I also have a villa in Seoul. Do you want to stay with me tonight? Li Jinju said with a face full of admiration. After experiencing this flight, she was practically worshipping Jiang Tian like a god. Let's stay in a hotel. Jiang Tian nodded indifferently and walked toward the Hilton Hotel. Li Jinju hurriedly followed behind. The Hilton Hotel gave him a few Hilton diamond cards. Only the core members and major shareholders of the Hilton family, as well as important business partners, were qualified to hold and use these cards. The Hilton Hotel had always been comfortable, and Jiang Tian didn't want to stay in Li Jinju's villa. The Hilton Hotel was located in the Gangnam district of Seoul. Jiang Tian handed his ID and the diamond card to Li Jinju, and Li Jinju went to the front desk to help Jiang Tian check in. The waitress was very respectful, and it was as if she was greeting Li Jinju. Jiang Tian sat on a leather sofa at the side of the hall and looked at the bustling night scenery outside the window. He couldn't help but think of Uncle Bird's showy, Jiangnan style, from 2012 in his previous life. He shook his head and started humming in a showy manner. He was currently intoxicated when a pleasant voice suddenly sounded out by his ear, saying, "You're Jiang Tian? Do we know each other?" Jiang Tian turned around. He saw a beautiful and fashionably dressed girl sitting next to him. She was looking at him with a smile. She was wearing an off-the-shoulder white polka-dot silk blouse and a knee-length black skirt. She was carrying an exquisite Hermes bag. Her makeup was exquisite, and she looked radiant and dazzling. Her snow-white shoulders, towering breasts, long and slender legs that were comparable to snow, and her crisp knees and legs were like a piece of art that had been meticulously crafted. Next to her was a man in a white blouse and a pair of straight black trousers. He was dressed like a business elite. "It's really you." The girl reached out her hand, wanting to shake hands with Jiang Tian. She smiled, revealing 2 shallow dimples, like 100 flowers blooming. "You don't remember me? I'm Yuan Ning, Song Shuangyan's best friend." "Oh, it's you." Hearing the name, Song Shuangyan, Jiang Tian's eyes suddenly became cold. He suddenly remembered the girl in front of him. Song Shuangyan, the daughter of the Song family in Yanjin, was known as one of the 4 beauties of Yanjin. She was the girl who had an engagement with Jiang Tian and cheated him out of the map of the ruins of immortals with betrothal gifts. Then, she broke off the engagement and made the Jiang family lose face. When he was in university, Jiang Tian was arranged by the Jiang family to meet Song Shuangyan in Beijing in the name of traveling during the summer break of his 3rd year. After all, it wasn't a feudal society now. The matchmaker's words and parents' orders didn't work for young people anymore. The Jiang family believed that young people also needed to communicate with each other. During those days in Yanjing, Jiang Tian suffered a great blow and setback. Even though she was still the crown prince of the Medicine King Group, her mother was still the chairman, and the market value of the Medicine King Group was almost 10 billion at that time. But in the eyes of Song Shuangyan and the other young masters of Yanjing, Jiang Tian was still like a bumpkin from the countryside. They were like high and mighty princes and princesses, ordering Jiang Tian around and mocking him in all sorts of ways, bringing endless humiliation to Jiang Tian. This Yuan Ning was also among them. She remembered that her father seemed to be a vice president of one of the 4 major banks in the country. At that time, she had already completed her master's degree in finance at Huaqing University. Relying on her father's connections and financial resources, she specialized in high-tech industry venture capital business. Generally, she was an angel investor. She had already invested in many e-commerce and other internet companies. However, even now, in retrospect, Yuan Ning's investment was very prescient. She had a unique vision. Several companies she invested in became the top companies in various industries. There was a B2C e-commerce brand that could even be ranked in the top 3 of Huaxia. According to the proportion of shares, she, who was not yet 30 years old, had at least a net worth of 10 billion. Yuan Ning was definitely an outstanding figure of the younger generation in Huaxia. If the net worth was ranked according to the age of 30, she could even be ranked in the top 20 of Huaxia. But in Song Shuangyan's circle, Yuan Ning didn't show off and was even a little marginal. After all, the Song family was known as the top family in Huaxia's secular world. Song Shuangyan was also known as one of the top socialites in Beijing. Yuan Ning also had a smooth and slick personality. At that time, she was very friendly to Jiang Tian, who had just arrived, and took care of him. But when she noticed Song Shuangyan's rejection of Jiang Tian, she also cleverly kept a distance from Jiang Tian. So, Jiang Tian didn't dislike her. But because of Song Shuangyan, he naturally didn't feel close to her. Seeing that Jiang Tian's smile was a little cold, Yuan Ning's smile was a little bitter. But she also understood Jiang Tian's mood. She moved closer to Jiang Tian's ear and whispered, "The big beauty who helped you register at the front desk. Is she your girlfriend?" This scene was a little ambiguous, like the whispers between lovers. Seeing this, the elite businessman next to Yuan Ning suddenly couldn't stand it. His handsome face sank and he shouted, "Little Ning. What are you shouting for? Who allowed you to shamelessly follow me here?" Yuan Ning rolled her eyes and said coldly, "Can't I see an acquaintance and say hello? Also, we're not familiar with each other. Don't call me by my name. Call me Boss Yuan." The elite businessman suddenly looked embarrassed and his face turned red. But his eyes looking at Jiang Tian became more and more unfriendly. Jiang Tian immediately understood the relationship between the two. Probably this man was pursuing Yuan Ning, but Yuan Ning didn't like him. But Jiang Tian was too lazy to pay attention to him. "Your girlfriend? So beautiful." At this time, Li Jinju had finished registering and turned around. Yuan Ning couldn't help but ask again. Jiang Tian said lightly, "No, she's my servant." "Ha, Jiang Tian, I didn't expect you to have a sense of humor." Yuan Ning covered her mouth and laughed. "What's funny? What era are we living in? Servants? What are you bragging about? You're not afraid of the wind cutting your tongue." The elite businessman curled his lips and laughed disdainfully. Chapter 362. Li Jinju looked very beautiful. It was no exaggeration to say that even his goddess, Yuan Ning, was slightly inferior to her. You should be thankful that such a stunningly beautiful woman can be your mistress, let alone a servant. Even if you want to brag, you shouldn't brag like this. Qin Jiafu, can you shut up? I'm chatting with my friend. Who are you to interrupt? Yuan Ning squinted at the businessman and frowned again. Her eyebrows were raised to the sky. Qin Jiafu was so angry that his face turned green. But he didn't dare to provoke his goddess. He could only endure it and looked at Jiang Tian with contempt. At this time, Li Jinju gracefully walked over and said with a smile, "That's right, I am Mr. Zhang's servant." G.A. Qin Jiafu suddenly felt dizzy. What was going on? Jiang Tian didn't bother to pay attention to the two. He lifted his foot and walked to the elevator with Li Jinju. "Jiang Tian, can you give me your contact information?" Yuan Ning suddenly found that Jiang Tian's temperament was different from before. Coupled with the information she had investigated before, it made her a little interested in Jiang Tian. Okay, Jiang Tian thought of her care and couldn't help but soften his heart. He took out a business card and handed it to her. It's so strange. Such a beautiful woman is his servant. What's going on? Even after Jiang Tian disappeared into the elevator, Yuan Ning was still staring at Jiang Tian's back, unable to retract his gaze. What's strange? Nouveau riche is a country bumpkin. Role-playing or something like that. Qin Jiafu sneered disdainfully. Country bumpkin. Nouveau riche? You're the one. That's funny. How do you know his identity? Yuan Ning smiled disdainfully and looked at Qin Jiafu with contempt. What's his background? He used the diamond card of the Hilton Hotel when he checked in. This kind of card can't be obtained by people without a net worth of 10 billion. Yuan Ning's eyes narrowed slightly and sneered. Net worth of 10 billion. Qin Jiafu was stunned and then said stubbornly, Humph, that's nothing. If my Dome shopping network is listed, I also have this net worth. Not to mention that your company hasn't even been listed yet. Even if it's listed, you can't beat him. He's the crown prince of Jinling's Jiang family, the young master of the Medicine King Group. Holy shit. Hua Xia's first shareholder, Medicine King Group. Qin Jiafu was truly shocked this time. He was dumbstruck. He suddenly scratched his head and frowned. I remember now. He seems to be the one who had an engagement with Song Shuangyan? That's right. Yuan Ning slightly frowned, and a complicated look flashed through his eyes. I wonder how Song Shuangyan feels now that she knows. You can feel it. Qin Jiafu also laughed disdainfully and said, family assets of tens of billions, in the eyes of ordinary people, that's the limit. But what kind of family was the Song family? That was a top-notch aristocratic family. The assets they secretly controlled were probably in the hundreds of billions, right? Her father said that either the heir of one of the top 10 families in Hua Xia's Forbes list, or the son of a foreign financial group with 100 years of history, or the leader of the family. Otherwise, Song Shuangyan would absolutely not marry him and raise him like a little princess. Qin Jiafu disdainfully sneered as if he wanted to pour out the pressure that Jiang Tian gave him. And Song Shuangyan's requirement for her boyfriend is not only a strong family background, but also his own ability. I heard that this kid seems to be a playboy, right? He shook his head and proudly said, young masters with a net worth of tens of billions revolve around Song Shuangyan. Have you ever seen Song Shuangyan look at them? What are you so proud of? What does the Song family have to do with you? Yuan Ning rolled his eyes. Qin Jiafu was speechless. Yuan Ning frowned and impatiently said, okay, enough nonsense. Hurry up and prepare the negotiation materials for the Star Moon family. Li Heyu will be here tomorrow. Star Moon Group was established in 1938, and it is now South Korea's top 500 listed company. It owns Star Moon Electronics, Star Moon Products, Star Moon Airlines, Star Moon Pharmaceuticals, etc. Their businesses are in electronics, finance, machinery, chemistry, etc. The Star Moon Lee family that controls Star Moon Group is also the richest family in South Korea. The Star Moon Lee family has a huge influence in South Korea, and the family's patriarch and founder, Lee Jong-shuan, can influence politics. He is on the same level as the president of South Korea. Of course, Yuan Ning and Yuan Ning are not qualified to talk to Lee Jong-shuan. Li Heyu is Li Zhongshuan's grandson, but he is not a direct descendant. He is also the current chairman of Star Moon Electronics. Yuan Ning and Yuan Ning want to get the e-commerce distribution rights of Star Moon Electronics to set up their 3C business, including mobile phones, computers, air conditioners, refrigerators, TVs, etc. They want to set up a 3C online shopping platform. But Star Moon Group has its own physical distribution system and stores, and they are worried that the distributors will protest. Online shopping is a new thing, and they still need to observe and study it. That's why Star Moon Group is hesitant to persuade Yuan Ning and Yuan Ning. This is their 7th visit to Li Heyu. It's going to be a tough negotiation. Yuan Ning rubbed his forehead, his face full of distress. The next day, Yuan Ning woke up early, dressed up, and had breakfast with Qin Jiafu before driving to Star Moon Group's headquarters. But when Yuan Ning arrived at the hotel lobby, he was shocked. Li Heyu and a few other middle-aged men were escorting an elegant man to the elevator. Li Zirong. Yuan Ning's heart almost jumped out of his chest when he saw the elegant man. Chen Jiafu's eyes were also filled with awe and admiration. Li Zirong. Li Zhongshuan's grandson, the only son of Star Moon Group's current owner, Li Jianqi. He is also the executive vice president of Star Moon Group. Ever since Li Jianqi fell seriously ill, Li Zirong had defeated her two elder sisters with thunderous means to seize power. Now, she had taken control of the entire Star Moon Group. Rumor has it that he is the most likely successor of Star Moon Group. Yuan Ning plucked up his courage and greeted him with a smile. He spoke in fluent Korean. Mr. Li Zirong, I'm Yuan Ning, the director of Huaxia's online shopping platform. I'd like to discuss the 3C business with your group. Li Zirong stopped and smiled modestly. Madam Yuan, I can speak Mandarin. I've heard Li Heyu mention your company, and I'm very interested in it. Is that so? That's great. Yuan Ning was so excited that he didn't know what to say. Li Zirong raised his wrist and looked at the time on his Portuguese watch. He said politely, but I have an important guest to meet now. Time is tight, so can you contact Li Heyu in the afternoon? Sure. Sorry to bother you, Mr. Li. Yuan Ning smiled and stepped aside. Li Zirong was courteous and elegant, but he also had an intimidating aura, which made Yuan Ning feel nervous and uneasy. After all, Li Zirong's strength and status were not something someone like Yuan Ning could compare to. Even Song Shuangyan had to treat him with caution. As for Chen Jiafu, he didn't even have the qualification to talk to him. He was the founder of the Giant Egg, but his shares were diluted by Yuan Ning and other investors. He was only a small shareholder. At this time, Jiang Tian and Li Jinju came downstairs to check out. Li Zirong's pupils suddenly shrank and a stern look flashed in his deep eyes. He walked quickly to Li Jinju and bowed deeply. Xingyue Li family welcomes Princess Li Jinju home. Xingyue Li family welcomes Princess Li Jinju home. Behind Li Zirong, all the men, including Li Heyu, bowed respectfully in a very humble manner. What? Yuan Ning was suddenly dumbfounded, as if he saw the most incredible thing in the world. This. Li Zirong bowed to Jiang Tian's maid. Am I seeing things? Holy shit, this world is crazy. Chen Jiafu's mind suddenly froze and he was stunned. Huh? Is she from Tanjuan's family? Jiang Tian looked at Li Jinju and frowned. Well, I can't explain it in a short time. Li Jinju smiled a little unnaturally. I'm here, don't be afraid of anything. Jiang Tian noticed that Li Jinju seemed to be a little frightened, so he said lightly. Okay. Li Jinju suddenly felt relieved. She raised her chin proudly and smiled. Then, I'll go home. Please. Li Zirong gestured and led the way to the parking lot in front of the hotel. Jiang Tian and Li Jinju were arranged to sit in a modern car. Then, a motorcade of more than a dozen luxury cars started and drove out of the hotel. Where are we going? Jiang Tian asked. The motorcade had already driven out of Seoul and headed to the eastern suburbs. There were green paddy fields and crisscrossing paths. The air was very fresh. Probably the snow mountain where Tanjuan's family is located. The ancestral home of the Xingyue Li family is at the foot of the snow mountain. Li Jinju smiled. At this moment, Li Jinju carefully explained to Jiang Tian her relationship with Tanjun and the Xingyue Li family. It turned out that the Xingyue Li family was a branch of Tanjuan's family. However, perhaps because the family members were not talented enough, or because they could not withstand the pain of cultivation, not many people from the Li family joined Tanjun. Now, they had become a completely secular family that focused on business. However, since Li Zhongshuan's generation started their business, Tanjuan's family had been secretly supporting and helping the Xingyue Li family. It could be said that without the protection of Tanjuan's family, the Xingyue Li family would not have existed, let alone have such great achievements. Li Jinju was originally the fifth child of the second generation of the Xingyue Li family, Li Jianxi. She used the name Li Yinxin and was Li Zirong's half-sister. However, Li Yinxin's birth mother had become aware of the horror and cruelty of the struggle between the aristocratic families during her time with Li Jianxi. Back then, Li Jianxi poisoned his younger siblings to death in order to seize control of the family. Moreover, his temperament had changed greatly. After Li Jinju's birth mother sent her to Tanjuan's family to be raised as the granddaughter of the Tanjun Daoist palace master. Moreover, the whereabouts of her daughter had been hidden from Li Jianxi and the entire Xingyue Li family. Not long after, Li Jinju's mother passed away mysteriously. In recent years, after Li Jianxi fell seriously ill, the struggle for power among the third generation of the Li family completely confirmed Li Jinju's mother's inference and worries. It could be said that it was a family feud. Chapter 363. Li Jianxi had two daughters who had the right to inherit the family, and a few illegitimate children. Either his family had some misfortune, or his family's shares had been diluted due to scandals. He was either in a vegetative state due to a car accident, or he was arrested by the judicial authorities and became crazy. So, you're actually the princess of the Xingyue Li family? Jiang Tian suddenly thought of something inside with a complicated expression. He had no impression of Li Jinju's name, but the name Li Yinxin left a deep impression on Jiang Tian. In his previous life, in 2010, the Xingyue Li family was involved in a power struggle. Li Yinxin, who was known as the goddess of South Korea, committed suicide by hanging herself at the Hilton Hotel. The entire South Korea was shocked. Countless fans and supporters of Li Yinxin gathered at the Hilton Hotel to pay their respects, and many media outlets paid attention to it. At that time, Li Yinxin had lost the support of Tan Jun and was no match for Li Zhirong. She was at his mercy and was forced to commit suicide. In 2012, Li Zhirong was involved in a corruption scandal involving the South Korean president's trusted aides, and was arrested for bribery and murder. However, Li Zhirong refused to admit to murdering Li Yinxin. After a heated debate in court, the judge found him guilty of bribery and sentenced him to 2 years and 6 months in prison, with 4 years of probation. He was also released. At that time, Jiang Tian saw Li Yinxin's photo on the internet and exclaimed, "It's such a pity that such a beauty died." But at that time, he only sighed as he watched the fire burn across the river, and then threw it to the back of his mind. After all, this kind of power struggle was too far away from Jiang Tian at that time. He did not expect to have such a deep connection with Li Jinju after his rebirth. He was able to learn more about the Xingyue family's power struggle that shocked the world. It was quite interesting. I didn't want to fight for the control of the Xingyue Li family, but I don't know how Li Zhirong found out about my identity. Li Jinju sighed with a complicated expression. From the looks of it, he also knows the truth about Tanjun being controlled by the Sakura Society. He thought that I have no one to rely on, so he decided to get rid of me. Is it possible that Li Zirong recruited the Japanese Cherry Blossom Society and helped him control Tanjuan's faction? Jiang Tian gave a meaningful smile and said, "That's right. You also said that Xingyue's Li family relied on Tanjuan's Li family to develop and grow. For Li Zirong, if he can't control the Tanjun branch, even if he controls the Xingyue Li family, it's useless." Maybe. Li Jinju was shocked at first, then she smiled faintly and said coquettishly, "But now that I have Master Kong as my backer, how can he be your opponent?" A murderous intent flashed in Jiang Tian's eyes. He suddenly said meaningfully, "Why don't you control the Xingyue Li family on my behalf?" Li Jinju was hesitating when Jiang Tian suddenly shook his head and said, "Forget it. I'm afraid that you're not good at managing a business. You sing quite well. Be a singer in the future." "Ha! Sing?" Li Jinju was stunned. Only then did she remember that when Jiang Tian was humming Jiangnan style yesterday, she was relaxed and hummed along. "Master, you really think my singing is good? Then I'll sing for you every day." She could not help but blush. She was a little proud. Was Master Kong praising her? The motorcade drove into a classical Korean mansion mainly made of wood and stone. Everyone got out of the car. Lee Jae-rong made a please gesture and said with a smile, "Dear little princess, please come in." "Thank you, big brother." Lee Jinju smiled indifferently. She held Jiang Tian's arm and followed behind Lee Zairong. Under the escort of many black-clothed men, they walked into a large hall. Lee Jinju was shocked when she walked in. The hall was set up like a mourning hall. There were wreaths, white curtains, portraits, altars, incense burners, and low mourning music. Li Jianxi and other members of the Xingyue Li family were kneeling on the ground in front of a black and white photo of a gentle-looking woman. Around them, a group of tall and strong men in black stood in great numbers. Their waists were bulging with weapons. "Bastard! Unfilial son! How dare you hit me and ask me to kneel?" Li Jianxi's face was full of injuries, and he was panting. He pointed at Li Jae-rong and scolded, "I will never change my will and give you the right to inherit the family. I want to talk to the president and the Ministry of Justice. I want to send you to prison. I want to pay a visit to Lord Tanjuan's lineage. I want to tear you to pieces." The others were lying on the ground with their heads in their pants, not daring to make a sound. "My dear father, is this the heir in your will?" Li Jae-rong put one hand in his pocket and pointed at Li Jinju with the other. He gave people a feeling of elegance and grace. Li Jianxi was stunned, and a trace of panic flashed in his eyes. He shook his head and said, "I don't know her. I've never seen her before. I've found out that she is the daughter of that bitch Yinan Hui. You can't hide it from me." Li Zairong shook her head, the corners of her mouth forming a beautiful arc as she smiled. "I think you will make a rational choice now. The camera, pen, ink pad, and your personal seal have been prepared for you. Please make a new will. How dare you hit father? How dare you kill father's bodyguard and control the personal freedom of all the members of the Li family?" Li Jae-rong's sister, Li Fuzhen, stood up and pointed at Li Jae-rong's nose. "What do you want? Do you want to kill us? Father won't change his will, because he won't hand the family over to a heartless and unjust tyrant. No one will preside over you." "You guessed right. I want to kill you." Li Zairong smiled warmly, but his eyes were filled with mockery and gloominess. His handsome face gave people a chilling feeling. He stroked Li Fuzhen's face and whispered in her ear, "And, sister, let me tell you, the long-legged male star you had an affair with and the reporters who secretly took photos were all arranged by me. He's good in bed, isn't he? You should be satisfied, right? You're despicable and shameless." Li Fuzhen was stunned, and then her eyes widened and she gnashed her teeth. "I'm going to kill you." She rushed forward and grabbed Li Jae-rong, but two burly bodyguards in black immediately held her arms and shoulders, and she couldn't move. "If you were loyal enough to your marriage, you wouldn't have fallen into this trap, and you wouldn't have lost your control." How pitiful and sad. Li Jae-rong's tone was sympathetic, but his face was full of mockery, like a cat playing with a mouse. The angrier and more helpless the other party was, the happier he was. "Bah!" Li Fuzhen spat on Li Jae-rong's face and roared with tears in her beautiful eyes, "You vicious wolf cub, you're worse than a dog or a pig. Your mother died early, and I took care of your daily life. I assisted you in managing Star Moon Group. I helped you suppress the old entrepreneurs who opposed you, but you treat me like this. Was your conscience eaten by a dog?" Li Jae-rong wiped the spit on his face with his white index finger and licked the spit on his finger with his tongue. He smiled and said, "Yes, it's really sweet. It's as sweet as mother's milk. I'm worse than a dog or a pig. You are, the whole Li family is." His smile gradually turned crazy, and he roared angrily, "Actually, my mother was poisoned to death by you, Li Jianxi." Everyone was shocked and looked at Li Jianxi in disbelief. Li Jianxi's body trembled, and then he gritted his teeth and said, "Yes, I poisoned her, but she deserved to die. That bitch wanted to join forces with your second uncle to impeach me in front of the board of directors. If I didn't kill her, I would have lost my control. You have a good reason to kill her. Li Jerong laughed nervously. Yes, Jerong, I killed your mother, but I'm also your biological father. Seeing that Li Jerong's tone had softened, Li Jianxi begged pitifully, I'm doing this to protect the interests of your bloodline. If you let me go, let your sister and sister go, I can immediately change my will and give you the right to inherit the family. Well, that's a good suggestion. You seem to be able to convince me. Li Jerong chuckled and said, but, what if I wasn't your son from the beginning? Li Jianxi was stunned as if he had been struck by lightning. He said with an ashen face, what did you say? Actually, I'm Li Jianhui's son. Li Jerong laughed sinisterly and said, you didn't expect it, did you? You've been a romantic all your life, and it wasn't enough for you to marry 4 concubines. You even kept models and actresses outside. But your second brother and his wife secretly colluded and made you wear a green hat. The green hat was so big that it covered the whole of Seoul. And now, their son wants to take away all your wealth. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? Why? Why did you do this to me? Li Jianxi was stunned, and then he gnashed his teeth and roared, that bitch, I really did a good job killing her. No, I killed her too easily. I should have cut her into pieces and fed her flesh to the dogs. Slap. Li Jerong slapped him on the face, and he fell to the ground with blood dripping from his mouth. She then kicked him a few times and gnashed her teeth, bastard, you're not allowed to insult my mother. You're the real bastard, and the filthiest blood flows in your veins. Li Jianxi was lying on the ground motionlessly. He could only breathe in, but not out. Li Zirong picked up a silk handkerchief from the bodyguard's hand and slowly wiped her hands. She smiled and said, this brutal pleasure will ultimately end in a brutal manner. Li Jianxi, hurry up and sign the will, and I might let you die a quick death. A stack of wills was thrown in front of Li Jianxi. Chapter 364. Even if you kill me, I won't sign the will. Li Jianxi shook his head dejectedly and smiled bitterly. I won't let you get away with it. I'm not afraid of death at this point. Without my signature, you can't get the inheritance right. I won't let you get what you want even if I die. I told you, there's a feeling in this world that's worse than death. Li Jianxi sneered and pulled out a pistol. He grabbed Li Jianxi's left palm, pressed the muzzle against it, and fired a shot. Suddenly, flesh and blood splattered, and Li Jianxi's palm was smashed into pieces. He held his broken hand and rolled on the ground, letting out shrill screams that sounded like the wails of ghosts and howls of wolves. Blood spurted out of his hand, leaving a glaring scarlet mark on the ground. Seeing this, Li Jinju's body trembled and her face turned pale. She subconsciously grabbed Jiang Tian's palm. After all, Li Jianxi was her biological father. Although their relationship was not deep, blood was thicker than water. But when she saw Jiang Tian's face was as calm as still water, and he looked on coldly with a spurious smile, she could only suppress the fear in her heart and remain silent. Li Zirong grinned. You don't want to sign it? Well, it just so happens that this bitch Li Fujian has always been thirsty, like a wolf or a tiger. I'll let you, Li Jianxi, see with your own eyes what kind of bitch your favorite daughter is. Ha, this is good. I've heard that Miss Fujian is the most lascivious. Look at that body, that skin, tsk tisk, I'll do it even if I lose 10 years of my life. The bodyguards smiled maliciously and swarmed Li Fujian like wolves and tigers. They threw her onto the sofa and pressed her hands and feet. Li Fujian was previously known as the First Lady of Korea. She was as beautiful as a flower, had a noble temperament, and had a high status. To be able to have sex with her was enough to brag about for a lifetime. Dad, please, sign it. Li Fujian screamed and begged for mercy. Several men tore apart Li Fujian's clothes, revealing her soft, snow-white chest and flat stomach. I'll sign it. I'll sign it. When he saw this, Li Jianqi's eyes almost split apart while his scalp almost exploded, and his heart was filled with humiliation, rage, helplessness, and despair. In the end, he could only pick up the pen and sign his name with trembling hands. Then, he pressed his personal seal and fingerprint. I lost. I admit defeat. Are you satisfied now? I beg you, let your sister go. Li Jianqi handed over the will and begged with tears streaming down his face. He's not my sister. My brothers have followed me through life and death. Now that the arrow is on the bow, I can't let them be wronged. Li Zirong held the will and smiled with satisfaction. You. Li Jianqi's face was filled with rage. He was so angry that his entire body was trembling like a sieve. But soon after, he closed his eyes in despair and sighed deeply. The situation was hopeless, and there was nothing he could do to reverse the situation. The only thing he could do was to not watch the scene of his daughter being defiled. Everyone, let's begin the execution. Li Zirong handed the will to her assistant, picked up the remote control on the coffee table, and pressed it. Maxim's piano version of Croatian Rhapsody immediately rang out in the large living room. Li Jianqi will be the last one to be executed. Open his eyes, I want him to see the beautiful scene of his children being killed and defiled one by one. The rhythm of the music was bright and fast. Li Zirong was intoxicated by it. She closed her eyes slightly and clapped her hands to the beat of the music. She was even moved by the music and hot tears flowed down her cheeks. In front of his eyes, there seemed to be a tragic scene of the ruins of Croatia that had been baptized by the flames of war and the reflection of the setting sun in the blood, tears, and dust. He liked the graceful framework of classical music, the strict music logic, and the rigorous to perfect structure. He was disdainful of modern music. But now, he found that some of the new famous songs of the 21st century were not bad. At least this song suited his mood at this moment. Click. Click. With a crisp sound, many gunmen opened the safety and aimed at the heads of the Xingyueli family. The scene was suddenly filled with desperate and fearful cries and begging for mercy. I'm just a bystander. Why are you pointing a gun at me? At this moment, a cold and calm voice sounded. Li Jinju looked at Jiang Tian in surprise. She found that Jiang Tian's Korean was very standard and fluent. She suddenly remembered that last night at the hotel, Jiang Tian asked her to find a teaching CD of Korean and Japanese. She didn't expect that Jiang Tian only used one night to learn Korean so well. She didn't know that Jiang Tian's divine sense was powerful. To be able to read 10 lines at a glance, a mere language was too easy to master. Kill him. Li Jianqi, who was enjoying the music, was interrupted. He looked at Jiang Tian in surprise and then waved his hand with disgust and contempt. This person seemed to be Li Jinju's follower or friend, but after all, he was an eyewitness. How could he let him go? Of course, he had to be killed. The gunman pointed his gun at Jiang Tian's gunman and was about to shoot. Chi! There was a sharp sound. No one saw how Jiang Tian moved. They only saw that in the rolling blood wave, that person's body was split into two from the middle and fell to the ground. Streams of bright red splashed out, and hot internal organs flowed out. The gunmen were shocked and immediately realized that danger was approaching. Li Zirong's face changed wildly and subconsciously stepped back. Without waiting for his order, many gunmen aimed at Jiang Tian and pulled the trigger. Bullets poured toward Jiang Tian like rain. Ha, bystander! Come to the Xingyueli family to be bystander. Li Zirong thought that this person was so funny. He would probably be shot into a sieve. Clang! 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 The dense sound was like bullets hitting a steel plate. Everyone was shocked to see that the bullets hitting Jiang Tian's body were bouncing out. Hiss! Everyone was stunned and gasped. They felt cold all over as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. Everything in front of them was beyond their understanding. The bullets couldn't kill him, but the bullets still bounced. Was this person made of iron? This was simply too evil, too terrible. Huaxia martial artist. Li Zirong's pupils shrank and his heart jumped. Suddenly he remembered that the intelligence said that Li Jinju had frequently visited Huaxia in the past 6 months. She wanted to find a martial arts master from Huaxia as a foreign aid. It seemed that this was the one in front of him. The next moment, he pulled out his pistol and shot at Jiang Tian to suppress him while fleeing outside. Seeing that the bullets are useless, you still shoot, dare I ask you are a fool? Jiang Tian directly urged out a wind blade. At this time, the wind blade was different from the previous one. It was completely condensed by the 7th metal true essence. It was extremely sharp and could cut gold and iron. A golden light flickered, like a half-moon-shaped strange knife, flashed by. Li Zirong's body stiffened, and his head was sprayed a few meters high by the blood spurting from the neck cavity. The headless body fell to the ground. The next moment, Jiang Tian flicked his finger, and the finger aura missed its target. All of Li Zirong's gunmen fell to the ground one by one like harvested rice. The ground was littered with corpses, and each of them had a bloody hole in their forehead. Some of them had their heads blown off and became headless corpses on the ground. Jiang Tian had cultivated the 7th metal divine body, and his normal true essence could be converted into 7th metal true essence. The power of his finger aura was comparable to the armor-piercing bullets fired by the Barrett sniper rifle, and the wind blade was extremely sharp. Even a steel plate could be pierced through. These people were just ordinary people, how could they be a match for Jiang Tian? Master, seeing this, Li Jinju knelt on the ground and bowed to Chen Fan. Unlike in Huaxia, Jiang Tian was not restrained at all in Singapore or South Korea. At this moment, the 10,000 miles of bloodlust that he had cultivated in the cultivation world and the indifferent nature of killing to prove his Tao was completely revealed. In less than a minute, all of the gunmen and Li Zirong's henchmen fell to the ground. Thank you, sir, for saving the Xingyue family. This old man will never forget your kindness. Li Jianxi was stunned for a few seconds before he came to his senses. Then, he rushed to Jiang Tian and bowed to him. The other senior members of the Xingyue family also knelt on the ground to express their sincere gratitude and respect to Jiang Tian. Li Zirong had worked hard for more than a decade just for today's revenge. He had bribed all the top officials of the government and the bodyguards of Li Jianxi. He had even worked with the elites of the Cherry Blossom Society to control the Xingyue family's backer, Tan Jun. If not for Jiang Tian's help today, the Xingyue family's decades of foundation would have fallen into Li Zirong's hands. Well, you may rise. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. Li Jianxi stood up and bandaged the wound on his hand. A trace of worry flashed across his face. Sir, Li Zirong should have Tan Jun under his control. I'm afraid that Tan Jun's people will know about it immediately and come to suppress us. We still need to discuss how to defend ourselves and how to resist the enemy. He could handle the government and Xingyue, but he couldn't touch Tan Jun's people. After all, he said that Patian was just a tycoon from the secular world. Don't worry. The best offense is defense. I alone am enough to flatten Shuiyu Mountain. Jiang Tian said with a smile. What? Everyone was shocked as soon as they heard this. Even if this young man could block bullets, he was a bit too arrogant. How could he flatten Shuiyu Mountain by himself? Sir, we need to be careful. Shuiyu Mountain has been occupied by Japanese overlords and there are too many of them. Li Jianxi hesitated. He was wondering if he should contact the military and the police to suppress the Japanese overlords under Tan Jun's command. However, Tan Jun's people were the most powerful in South Korea. They were the source of South Korean culture, and the South Korean government might not have the courage to attack them. It was indeed troublesome. Father, this Mr. Jiang is no ordinary man. He is the #1 grandmaster on the divine roll in Huaxia, Kang Taechu. He is also the 3rd most powerful overlord on the CIA dark roll. He can even kill Chiba Masao and other kendo masters with a snap of his fingers. Li Jinju said with a smile. Everyone was shocked by the revelation. Chapter 365. What? Mr. Jiang is such a master. This is the blessing of the Xingyue family. Li Jianxi was overjoyed and shocked. He felt as if he had found a treasure. Although he was not a cultivator, he was the richest man in the country and a favorite of the South Korean president. Therefore, he knew a lot more information than the average Huaxia tycoon. He already knew that Tan Jun's lineage originated from the ancient Taoist school of Huaxia. Their ideology and culture originated from the Confucian school. It could be said that the martial arts of Huaxia were more powerful. Moreover, it was said that Huaxia martial Dao Grand Masters could walk on water and condense qi into weapons to hurt people from a distance. The weight of the number 1 Grand Master was even heavier. It could be said that they were far more powerful than Tan Jun's branch. The next moment, he suddenly thought of something and asked Li Jinju, "Jinju, what is your relationship with Mr. Jiang?" Well, Li Jinju saw the excitement in her father's eyes and knew what he was thinking, but she had to tell the truth. She smiled and said, "I was once bewitched by the Japanese on Myoji to set up a trap to kill Master Kong, but Master Kong forgave me and didn't kill me. Instead, he took me as his slave. Miss Li is one of my trusted aides. We have a very close relationship, so..." Jiang Tian suddenly interrupted. As soon as he said that, Li Jinju was stunned. Then, she looked at Jiang Tian gratefully and almost burst into tears. She knew that Jiang Tian had a lover and was known as the wife-doting demon. He had never been a womanizer. Moreover, he was as powerful as a god. Even though she was the descendant of the Xingyue family and the adopted daughter of Tan Jun, she was not worthy of Jiang Tian. Master Kong said that because he wanted to be her backer and help her win the position she deserved in the Li family. "Well, father." She hesitated for a moment and said with a blushing face. "That's great. That's great." Li Jianxi looked at Jiang Tian like a mother-in-law looking at her son-in-law. His eyes were full of love, which made Jiang Tian a little scared. Suddenly, Li Jianxi started coughing violently. "You're coughing. You don't seem to be in good health." Jiang Tian smiled. "Sigh, late-stage liver cancer has already spread to my entire body. Otherwise, how could this unfilial son, no, this bastard succeed?" Li Jianxi said dejectedly. Here are a few pills. Consume them, and you'll be fully recovered within 3 days." With a wave of his hand, Jiang Tian took out a few foundation pills and handed them to Li Jianxi. "Thank you, Master Kong. The Xingyue family will never forget your great kindness." Li Jianxi hurriedly bowed to express his gratitude. He was so excited that his whole body trembled. He was so moved that he almost shed tears. This medicinal pill was crystalline and translucent like a ruby, and it emitted strands of strange brilliance. The medicinal fragrance that assailed the nose coiled up and refreshed the heart, and a light whiff of it caused one's spirits to be refreshed and enlightened. Even if Li Jianxi only had a little understanding of medicinal pills, he knew that the medicinal pill given by Jiang Tian was absolutely extraordinary and priceless. Moreover, Jiang Tian was a martial arts grandmaster. How could he exaggerate? If he said that it could be cured, then it could definitely be cured. He was terminally ill, and now that he had been rewarded by Jiang Tian to extend his life, how could he not be grateful and excited? After Li Jianxi swallowed the medicinal pill, his sunken cheeks bulged at a speed visible to the naked eye, and his face regained vitality and rosy color. "I feel that I'm really cured. There's no need to check." His face was full of joy, and then he directly knelt on the ground and said respectfully, "Today, I finally know the ability of the strong in Huaxia. Master Kong, you're really a living immortal. Look at father's face, it's really a miracle pill." "Miracle? No, it can't even be described as a miracle. It should be a miracle. This medical skill is the legendary flesh and bones of the dead, in Huaxia. He's just like a god. Many members of the Xingyue family exclaimed and couldn't believe it. They looked at Jiang Tian with even more respect. At the same time, they also looked at Li Jinju, who had entered the Xingyue family for the first time. This Master Kong was really too powerful. He was invulnerable and could kill people in the air. If this kind of means made them afraid, then Jiang Tian's ability to save people made them admire him. Jiang Tian killed people with one hand and saved people with the other. With such ability, how could the Xingyue family not respect him? My master is really extraordinary. Looking at Jiang Tian, who was surrounded by people, Li Jinju really felt that he was no different from a god. Jinju, in the future, you will be in charge of the Xingyue family. I will personally assist you. After I die, all the assets of the Xingyue family will belong to you. Li Jianxi immediately drew up a will and gave all of his assets to Li Jinju, and then presented the will. I agree. I agree. Seeing Jiang Tian looking at them calmly, many members of the Li family who had the right to inherit the Xingyue family's assets trembled. They rushed to express their agreement, not daring to have any thoughts of fighting for the inheritance. What? Looking at Li Jianxi's fervent gaze, Li Jinju also covered her mouth in disbelief. After all, she grew up in Tanjuan's family and doesn't know how to run a business. How could she be in charge of the Xingyue family's assets? Xingyue Group was the biggest conglomerate in South Korea. It was involved in electronics, chemicals, heavy industry, finance, military, life engineering, and many other industries. At the beginning of 2009, its assets had reached $200 billion, which was equivalent to more than 150 billion Huaxia yuan. It was not an exaggeration to say that a sneeze from the Star Moon Group could cause a huge uproar in South Korea. It had the power to topple mountains and overturn seas. However, looking at Jiang Tian, who seemed to be smiling yet not smiling, Li Jinju made up her mind and smiled. All right. I agree. Congratulations, sister. Don't worry, Jinju. We will unite around the board of directors with you as the core and revive the Star Moon Group. That's right. With Dad's help, we will be able to achieve greatness again. Everyone surrounded Li Jinju, and they either had flattering expressions or were impassioned as they congratulated her and expressed their loyalty. They were filled with envy and jealousy. Li Jinju was the daughter of Li Jianxi's mistress. She was not even qualified to return to the Li family. No one in the entire Xingyue family knew who she was. If Li Zirong hadn't wanted to eliminate the source of trouble and capture her, no one would have known of her existence. But now, she had become the head of the Xingyue family. She had reached the top in a single bound. And all of this was brought about by this Grand Master Jiang from Huaxia. This was what it meant when a man achieves the Tao, his chickens and dogs ascend to the heavens. Li Jinju smiled and chatted with them, but she took a deep look at Jiang Tian and murmured in her heart, "You are too powerful. If I don't stand higher, I might not even be qualified to be your servant. Master Kong, let's rest for a while. I will ask the servants to prepare dinner. Let's have a drink." Li Jianxi invited Chen Xiaobei warmly. Under Li Jianxi's accompaniment, Jiang Tian walked into an elegant courtyard. Li Jianxi closed the door and slowly retreated. There was a hot spring pool in the courtyard, which was about an acre in size and filled with steam. Plum trees, banana trees, bamboo forests, rockery, stone tables and stone chairs, all of them were arranged in picturesque disorder. The scenery was pleasant and filled with the flavor of ancient Korea, quaint and quiet. In the courtyard, inside and outside of the house, there were 4 beautiful women. Any one of them had the body of a model and the face of a B-list celebrity. However, they were just the servants of the Xingyue family. What a shame, my Armani. Jiang Tian walked into the room and sat on the bed. He looked at the bullet holes in his clothes with a gloomy face. After his divine body of Gungjin was formed, he was invulnerable even without the protection of the astral wind. However, he had forgotten that the astral wind would damage his clothes. Master, your clothes are here. I will help you change them now. Li Jinju walked out of the room and came back with a few boxes in her hands. There was a pair of leather shoes, a white shirt, underwear, socks, and a pair of trousers. She knelt in front of Jiang Tian and lowered her head, revealing her snow-white neck. She gently helped Jiang Tian take off his shoes and socks and put on his slippers. Then, she helped Jiang Tian remove his tattered clothes. Master, you are so charming. At this moment, looking at Jiang Tian's jade-like body that was sparkling and translucent like jade and contained explosive power, a wisp of bright red appeared on her face, and her heart thumped wildly. Finally, she looked down and said with a smile, Master, do you want to take a bath first? Let me serve you. Okay. Okay. Jiang Tian nodded. He thought about how to deal with the Japanese elites of the Shuiyu Mountain and then walked out of the door and into the hot spring. Nice. All the pores on his body opened up. Jiang Tian closed his eyes, leaned against the rock wall, and slightly moaned. Ha, I'm afraid that the old monsters of Lord Tan's lineage have already known about the great changes in the Xingyueli family. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed with a hint of sharpness. When he killed Li Zirong, a wisp of blood qi flew toward the Shuiyu Mountain as if it had a mind of its own. Jiang Tian scanned it with his divine sense and found that it was a blood-channeling technique. It seemed that the Japanese yin-yang masters were quite good at it. This kind of technique was rare even in Huaxia. However, compared to Jiang Tian's divine sense imprint technique, the difference was too great. After all, it was a technique to send messages after the event. Jiang Tian, on the other hand, could sense the condition of the imprinted person at any time according to the message sent by the divine sense imprint. So what if the East-Yang Yin-Yang art was unique and powerful? Jiang Tian's body, Dharma spells, Dharma artifacts, and immortal martial arts were 10 times more powerful than before. Not to mention the immortal state warriors, even if they were real immortal state warriors, he could kill them on the spot. Okay, but I don't want to give them too much time. I will go to the Shuiyu Mountain in the afternoon and take care of all the Japanese elites. Jiang Tian made up his mind. Master, I am coming. Just as he was thinking, he heard a series of light footsteps behind him. Li Jinju, who was wearing a gauze dress, walked into the hot spring pool with a blush on her face. At this moment, she finally revealed her beauty as the nation's #1 lady goddess of South Korea. There was no need to mention those slender, snow-white legs. There was no need to mention those plump breasts and slender waist. There was also no need to mention that neck that appeared even more slender and elegant due to her coiled hair. Even those sparkling and translucent feet that looked like they were carved out of fine jade were breathtakingly beautiful. Any normal man would not be able to resist them. Especially her gauze dress, it added a touch of mystery and charm to her curvaceous body. She sat down next to Jiang Tian, took the towel from the maid and gently wiped Jiang Tian's broad back. Chapter 366. The 4 maids exchanged glances with each other, pursed their lips, and chuckled. Then, they quietly left the courtyard. Master, her cherry lips gently parted. Suddenly, Li Jinju gently hugged Jiang Tian. Her soft and tender body was completely pressed against him as her face leaned against his broad back. What are you doing? Jiang Tian frowned. Li Jinju's face was red as she coquettishly whispered into Jiang Tian's ear. Her eyes were burning as she whispered, Master, take me. Actually, I'm still a virgin. She understood that if she became Jiang Tian's woman, she would truly be hugging onto Jiang Tian's thick thigh and her status would rise again. She would not be a simple member of the Xingyueli family. She would be a peerless powerhouse who could even become an immortal or immortal. Jiang Tian turned his head and glanced at her. His eyes were as calm as an ancient well. In the cultivation space, Jiang Tian had seen all kinds of peerless beauties. Although Li Jinju was a goddess of the South Korean people and was a peerless beauty, it was not enough to move Jiang Tian's heart. Moreover, Jiang Tian and Qing'er had a deep relationship. It was as if they were one person and there was no way a third party could come between them. Li Jinju did not dare to look at Jiang Tian. She lowered her eyes and her clear and beautiful eyes were covered with a dense mist. Her entire body was as gentle as water as she coquettishly said, "Master, you can rest assured that I will not compete with your wife for affection. I don't need it." Jiang Tian lazily closed his eyes and lightly said, "If you want to stay by my side for a long time, then don't have such thoughts. He really is a wife-doting demon. I am tempting him like this and he is actually unmoved." Li Jinju's tender body slightly stiffened as a trace of gloominess flashed across her face. Although she was disappointed, she admired Jiang Tian even more and was even more envious of Zhao Xueqing. She smiled awkwardly and continued to gently wipe Jiang Tian's body. "Master, you fought in the morning, so you should rest in the afternoon, right? Lord Tan's lineage has fallen for a long time, it won't be in a short time." "Rest? Ha, how can killing these few bastards waste any of my power?" Jiang Tian opened his eyes, a trace of disdain flashed across his face. "Get the car ready. We will climb Snow Mountain in the afternoon. Don't worry, none of those Japanese bastards will get away." "Yes, with Master Kang's strength, how could the Japanese be your match?" Li Jinju smiled and reported the situation of the experts of Snow Peak Mountain in a flattering and fawning manner. After listening, Jiang Tian slowly closed his eyes, sat cross-legged, and silently cultivated. The path of cultivation was long and arduous. Since Jiang Tian's rebirth, although he had rarely met a worthy opponent, he still respected cultivation and did not dare to slack off for even a day. Li Jinju no longer dared to wipe Jiang Tian's body. Her tiny toes quivered slightly as she looked at Jiang Tian quietly. She looked at Jiang Tian's handsome face with her limpid eyes, and for a moment, she was mesmerized. "Motherfucker. What's wrong with Li Hiyu? Why isn't he picking up the phone? His secretary said that the previous cooperation framework is invalid. What's the point of working for the past few months?" On the mountain path of Snow Mountain, Yuan Ning furrowed her brows and said angrily. She did not have the elegance of a lady from a wealthy family. Li Zirong's approval of the project in the morning had reassured Yuan Ning, and she had high hopes. However, the Star Moon Group did not approve of it. They even said that there would be a major change in the board of directors and asked her to wait for the notice. What nonsense! The two's trip to South Korea was fruitless. Yuan Ning was extremely depressed, which was why Chen Jiafu suggested that the two of them come to Snow Mountain to relax. Snow Mountain was located 30 kilometers away from the outskirts of Seoul. The majestic mountains pierced through the clouds, and the snow on the peaks did not melt all year round. It gave off a holy and solemn feeling. Everyone in South Korea knew that Seoul was the sacred mountain of the country, the Mother Mountain. Legend had it that the revered Tanjung lived in seclusion on Snow Mountain. Tanjung was the god of creation, a saint, and an immortal in the hearts of the people. It was rumored that the descendants of Tanjung had the ability to ride the clouds, turn reeds into swords, fly in the sky, and turn stones into gold. At the peak of Snow Mountain, there was a huge palace called Tanjung Palace. It was built for the sake of Tanjung's family. A disciple of Lord Tanjuan's line was guarding the main hall, pointing out the right path for the world. Every day, countless believers would come from all over the world to make a pilgrimage. Bronze statues of Tanjung and his descendants were enshrined in Tanjung Palace. There were tourists and local residents on the path up the mountain. However, Yuan Ning was not in the mood to enjoy the scenery. She was part of the elite class in Huaxia, and her life was smooth sailing. However, in South Korea, she had faced countless obstacles and had tasted countless humiliation and defeat. "Shao Ning, don't worry. The other party did not say that they are dead. We will make them cooperate with us." Chen Jiafu passed a bottle of Montez water to Yuan Ning and consoled her with a smile. Bullshit. You don't have a plan. Yuan Ning said impatiently as she gulped down a mouthful of water. Qin Jiafu could only sigh helplessly. Oh my god. What a handsome appa. His legs are so long. Look at him. His clothes are so thin. He is not afraid of the cold at all. Suddenly, Yuan Ning heard a burst of cheers. He saw a few young girls in front of him pointing at a man and a woman on the mountain path, their faces filled with excitement. Tisk, it's not a bad idea to pick up a handsome guy. Yuan Ning smiled and chased after the couple. Damn, don't I have any sense of presence? Qin Jiafu was on the verge of tears. Appa, can I have your number? Yuan Ning looked at the man's back, which was also extremely tall and imposing. He patted him on the shoulder and said with a smile. Why are you leaving your phone number? You only know how to chase after handsome guys every day. Have you thrown your face overseas? Jiang Tian turned his head and frowned. Oh, Jiang Tian, it's you. Yuan Ning's smile froze. She did not expect to meet Jiang Tian. She then smiled casually. Are you here for sightseeing? Then you have made the right choice. I can be your tour guide. I have been to this place at least 8 times. She is annoyed with Qin Jiafu, but she has a good impression of Jiang Tian. For some reason, Dong Xuebing has a strange charm, and she feels comfortable when she is close to him. Of course, she does not expect anything to happen between her and Jiang Tian. At least he can be her playmate. Oh. I have a South Korean local with me, Jiang Tian pointed at Li Jinju, who was wearing a mountaineering suit and looking energetic, with a cold expression on his face. Li Jinju held on to Jiang Tian's arm and looked at Yuan Ning with hostility. Although she was wearing sunglasses, Yuan Ning could still feel her obvious hostility. Beside them, there is an old man wearing sunglasses. He looks familiar, but Yuan Ning can't remember who he is. Don't reject me. I've met an old friend in a foreign land. I don't care, I just want to be with you. Yuan Ning can always find a suitable reason. Moreover, she is a feisty person. After all, she has been in the business world for many years. She directly took Jiang Tian's other arm and said with a smile, Jiang Tian, now that you have 2 beauties by your side, don't you feel very happy and blessed? Cough, cough. Qin Jiafu suddenly felt pain in his lungs and started coughing. If you dare to make a sound, get lost. Yuan Ning glared at him. This time, Qin Jiafu's liver is in pain. His face had turned into the color of a pig's liver. This was simply a case of dying from drought and drowning. Jiang Tian, I heard that the Jiang family is doing well. Do you want to expand your business in Yanjing? Yuan Ning whispered into Jiang Tian's ear. I don't have any plans for now. Yanjing is the political center and it has a lot of resources. Jin City is too small, Qin Jiafu chimed in. Is that so? Then why didn't Apple move to Washington? Why didn't Facebook leave Silicon Valley? That's not the way to set up a company. Jiang Tian said calmly. This. Qin Jiafu's face turned red again. Qin Jiafu, shut up. No one will think you're mute if you don't talk. Yuan Ning thought to herself that Jiang Tian's words made sense. But I'm just chatting with you. Why are you being so serious? But Qin Jiafu, it's wrong for you to interrupt. Have you contacted Song Shuangyan all these years? Do you miss her? Yuan Ning asked like a nosy woman. I'm already married. My wife is great. I'm very happy. Jiang Tian said calmly. You're already married. Yuan Ning suddenly felt bitter, as if a piece of her heart was missing. Then there must be some regret. Qin Jiafu interrupted again. But this time, Yuan Ning didn't scold him. She just rolled her eyes at him. In fact, she wanted to ask the same question. Why would I regret it? Jiang Tian smiled. Song Shuangyan, one of the 4 beauties in Yanjing. She's from a noble family and is very talented. Don't you regret it? Chen Jiafu poked at Jiang Tian's sore spot. He couldn't hold it in anymore. He said proudly, her family has produced a few provincial leaders. The Song family's assets are tens of millions of Huaxia dollars. I'm afraid you're crying every night when you dream about it. How pitiful. This guy can be quite sharp-tongued sometimes. Hee, provincial leaders. Hundreds of billions of assets. Jiang Tian also smiled faintly and said, these rights, these riches, in your eyes, are unattainable, but in my eyes, they are like ants and dust, not worth mentioning at all. I can easily obtain them. Jiang Tian wasn't exaggerating at all. In terms of power, he was the Grand Preceptor of Singapore, the emperor of many small countries in Southeast Asia. How could he be inferior to a provincial leader? How about Yi Qida and Fan Xian? The governor of the border was a man of his word, but they were all suppressed by him. During this period of time, the 2 of them had repeatedly asked Secretary Yu to pass on a message to him, but he couldn't be bothered. How about Chao Shixiang? An important minister of the country, a pillar of the country, he was on the same level as him. How about Li Xianlong? The ruler of Singapore, one of the 4 little dragons of Asia, had to kowtow 3 times and 9 times for his own disciple. In terms of wealth, not to mention Medicine King Group's market value of hundreds of billions, not to mention Jiang Tian's net worth of trillions of Huaxia dollars, not to mention that he held the gold shares of the Guo family and had veto power. Even the South Korea's Moon Lee family could scare people to death. In addition, he had cooperated with Hilton and other financial groups and families in America. The amount of funds he could mobilize now was more than a few trillion. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that he was as rich as a country. But Qin Jiafu didn't like what he said. It was simply arrogant and boastful. The world's champion of fancy bragging immediately retorted. Chapter 367. What the? Qin Jiafu was stunned by Jiang Tian's casual attitude. But then he shook his head in disdain and said, Jiang Tian, I know you're the crown prince of the Jiang family, but you don't have to brag like that. Yes. That's right. Now the Medicine King Group has assets of hundreds of billions, and it's the first share of Huaxia's pharmaceutical enterprises. It's amazing. When it came to business management, Qin Jiafu was very good at talking about it. After all, he was an entrepreneurial elite from Silicon Valley, a rising star of wealth. But you know, rapid expansion of a company's assets will only happen at the startup stage, then it will enter a period of stable development, and finally a period of bottleneck and decline. Now the Medicine King Group's development in Huaxia has hit the ceiling, because the market is so big. If you want to build another Medicine King Group, I'm afraid you'll need at least 30 years of intensive cultivation. His words were reasonable and pointed to the heart of the matter. And the Chinese medicine industry in which the Medicine King Group is in is a traditional industry, or even a sunset industry. It doesn't have the gene of fission growth. He suddenly had an idea and said with a smile, if you're willing to cooperate with us, you'll have the gene of the internet. Maybe you can fight your way out. You're from the Giant Egg Network. What's your name? Jiang Tian suddenly stared at him and asked in surprise. Well, I'm Qin Jiafu, the founder of the Giant Egg Network. Seeing the shock on Jiang Tian's face, Qin Jiafu showed a trace of pride and said proudly, now it's in the top 3 of Huaxia's e-commerce enterprises. Oh. Jiang Tian nodded and didn't say anything else. The Giant Egg Network. He was very impressed. In 2012, the Giant Egg Network and the Medicine King Group almost fell at the same time. The founder, Qin Jiafu, also committed suicide by burning gas. At that time, before Jiang Tian committed suicide, he drank a lot of wine on the 1,000-foot cliff. He even drank a cup of wine to this guide on the Yellow Springs Road. In fact, he didn't know Qin Jiafu. It was just that this guy committed suicide before Jiang Tian, so it was quite fate. Of course, the destruction of the giant egg net had nothing to do with the Medicine King Group. Instead, it was because the 3C business was taken over by Shijing Shopping and a few other giants. In the end, the capital chain was broken, and the performance VAM agreement he signed with the major shareholder of the venture capital caused him to bear a huge amount of debt. He left a message on Weibo, "Yes, I love you, I don't regret it, and I respect the ending of the story." Then, he turned on the gas and committed suicide. Jiang Tian looked at his high-spirited appearance and felt a trace of sadness in his heart. Who would have thought that he would commit suicide in just 3 years? However, everyone had their own destiny, and Jiang Tian was too lazy to intervene in Chen Jiafu's life. "Jiang Tian, do you want to cooperate or not? Think about it." Chen Jiafu once again rambled on about the advantages of the dome net. First of all, the Medicine King Group is not a traditional company, but a high-tech company. Also, Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said, "I've never been about earning money, but robbing money. Stealing money from consumers? Isn't it still making money?" Chen Jiafu shrugged his shoulders and said disdainfully, "What do you rely on to rob money? Don't tell me you're going to rob a bank with a gun." After all, he was a nouveau riche. Perhaps in terms of assets, but in terms of understanding of Huaxia, especially the dark world, he was not comparable to those old families, and even worse than Yi Gufeng. "With my fists." Jiang Tian also smiled. Sometimes, he felt that it was not bad to tease this idiot. "Sure enough, you're a playboy. You like to fight, is there a screw loose in your head?" Chen Jiafu rolled his eyes and muttered in a low voice. "You two are so vulgar. Talking business along the way, so annoying. So annoying," Yuan Ning said angrily. Fortunately, they arrived at the Tanjun Palace. At this time, they had already arrived at the highest peak of the snow mountain, King Kong Peak. It was more than 2,000 meters above sea level, and the mountain was even more towering and steep. It snowed all year round, and the roads were covered with white snow. The huge Tanjun Palace had a magnificent aura and a rich ancient charm. Green bricks and green tiles, and the ground was paved with rocks. Standing on the platform in front of the Tanjun Palace and looking into the distance, one could see half of Seoul and many mountain peaks. The scenery was incomparably magnificent. There were many people gathered together to take photos. "Master Kong, this is the mountain path to the Tanjun Palace." Beside the palace, there was a passage up the mountain. Li Jianxi pointed and said. The Tanjun Palace was the place of worship for the people of South Korea, and the Tanjun Palace was the residence of the cultivators of the Tanjun lineage. Now, it had become the entrenched place of the Japanese powerhouses. Seeing that Jiang Tian was about to go forward, Chen Jiafu hurriedly pulled Jiang Tian back. His face was pale with fright, and he hurriedly said, "Jiang Tian, are you crazy? You can't go there. This is the Tanjun lineage's Dao Palace, the residence of the disciples. It is even more heavily guarded than the ancient imperial palace. If you rashly barge in, you will be injured by the guards, or even killed." "Is that so?" Jiang Tian smiled and said, "Aren't you quite annoyed with me? If I'm beaten to death, wouldn't that be exactly what you want? Look at what you're saying. I'm quite jealous of you, even quite jealous of you." Chen Jiafu's smile was actually a little simple and honest, and then he said, "But after all, we are the descendants of Huaxia, and we had a good chat along the way. I can't just watch you die, right?" He sighed sadly, shook his head and said, "Besides, I understand that I'm actually not worthy of Yuan Ning. Will she accept me if something happens to you? After all, he's an honest man. Maybe that's why his shares are constantly being diluted by venture capitalists, and he even signed a trap-like VAM agreement." Jiang Tian sighed in his heart, and then said without thinking, "Based on what you said, I'll let you handle the Star Moon Group's 3C business." "Huh? What? Star Moon Group?" Chen Jiafu looked at Jiang Tian with a puzzled face. "Come, Jiang Tian, let's take a picture together." Yuan Ning dragged Jiang Tian to the observation deck of the Tanjun Hall and asked Li Jinju to take a picture for her. Chen Jiafu, who couldn't bear to watch this scene, was gloomily browsing the web on his mobile phone. Suddenly, his mobile phone fell to the ground with a clatter. His body trembled violently, and he looked at Jiang Tian and Li Jinju, who were taking pictures for Jiang Tian and Yuan Ning, as if he had seen a ghost. Seeing this, Yuan Ning rolled her eyes and complained, "You're a good-for-nothing. You can't do anything. You're shivering." Chen Jiafu's voice trembled, and his fingers trembled violently. He pointed at Li Jinju and said, "What's her name again?" "Oh, her name is Li Jinju, also known as Li Yinxin. She's my daughter." "Do you know her, sir?" Next to him, Li Jianxi took off his sunglasses and smiled faintly. "You?" Chen Jiafu turned his head and looked at Li Jianxi in shock. He was so shocked that he fell to the ground. "What's wrong? Are you going to have a seizure? Why don't you go to hell?" Yuan Ning walked over and frowned at him, looking very unhappy. "If you see it, you'll have a seizure too." Chen Jiafu pointed at the mobile phone on the ground and said with a complicated expression. "TSK. Is the Earth going to explode? 2012 is still far away." Yuan Ning unlocked her mobile phone and saw that it was the official website of Star Moon Group. There were big red and bold words, "Major announcement, Star Moon Group's board of directors changes." She clicked on it and saw a picture of Li Jinju, but her name was Li Yinxin. She was now the chairman of the board of directors and had legally inherited all of Star Moon Group's assets. What the fuck? Yuan Ning began to tremble and tremble. She was about to have a seizure. Following that were the relevant introductions and explanations, and then the news that the former chairman and president, Mr. Li Jianxi, had recovered and was now the CEO. Following that was an obituary. The former vice presidents, Li Zirong and Li Heyu, unfortunately passed away in a car accident. After reading it, she looked at Jiang Tian as if she had seen a ghost. "If I remember correctly, Li Jinju. She's your servant?" "That's right." Li Jinju smiled naturally. Beside her, Li Jianxi also nodded. He even looked very proud of himself. If Song Shuangyan knew about this, she would probably regret it to death. Chen Jiafu mumbled with a dull gaze. "Yes, of course. He should really have 1,000,000,000. Yuan Ning looked dazed. This time, Yuan Ning nodded with Chen Jiafu. Surprisingly, they had the same opinion. "Don't tell anyone about this. I'll set up a trap for Yanjing in the future." Jiang Tian smiled bitterly. Some things could not be hidden even if he wanted to. It was too coincidental, and the world was too small. "Understood. We understand." The two of them nodded together like chickens pecking at rice. They looked at Jiang Tian with a very different gaze. There was some shock, some reverence, some fear, and some confusion. He really controlled the Xingyue family. Damn, this is too heaven-defying. But why? "You guys can go back." Jiang Tian smiled faintly. "No, we'll go down the mountain with you." This time, the two of them were surprisingly in agreement. They had a tacit understanding and spoke at the same time. "We have to hug this young Master Zhang's thigh. No one can make me let go. Not even God. Not to mention his thigh, even a strand of his leg hair is thicker than a person's waist. Other things aside, just the Xingyue Group's 3C business alone is enough for us to eat until we're fat." "All right." Jiang Tian nodded helplessly. Suddenly, his body shot out like an arrow and landed on the roof of the main hall. "Damn, he's hanging from a wire." Chen Jiafu's eyes were filled with shock as he stared at Jiang Tian with wide, round eyes. His eyes were filled with disbelief as waves of shock rose in his heart. The scene in front of him was too shocking. Jiang Tian's movements were like that of a peerless master in a wuxia movie. He flew 100 meters in a blink. If Jiang Tian wasn't wearing modern clothes, Chen Jiafu would have thought that he was a peerless deity. He can't be that kind of person, right? Yuan Ning was born in a family of officials and grew up in Yanjin, the center of power in Huaxia. She was relatively knowledgeable. Suddenly, she thought of a possibility. Her face changed drastically and her eyes flashed with excitement. Li Jianxi and his daughter, as well as Chen Jiafu and Yuan Ning, all stared at Jiang Tian as if they were looking at a god. He looked down at the gate of Lord Tan's Taoist palace in the back of the mountain and roared like a thunderclap, "Japanese bastard, come out and die." The next second, the gate collapsed. Chapter 368. His voice was like rolling thunder, pushing out horizontally. Like a furious dragon soaring into the sky, it soared 90,000 miles into the sky. The mountain gate crumbled, rocks flew everywhere, and the earth shook. The dense forest surged like a tide, and the birds in the forest flew away in shock. For a moment, all the tourists stared at the tall figure standing proudly in the main hall. Their eyes were filled with shock. Behind the snow mountain, on the cliff behind the many palaces, there were many men in black standing outside a cave. All of them were armed with guns and katanas. Their auras were fierce, and their eyes were fierce, as if they were fiends. They were the elites of the Yamaguchi-gumi and Yamaguchi-kai. They could do whatever they wanted in Japan, but they didn't even dare to breathe loudly in this place. That was because this cave was the headquarters of the Ampei family, the Grand Onmyoji who controlled the entire upper-class society of South Korea. Those who could enter were all peerless overlords. Any one of them could be compared to the president of the Yamaguchi-gumi and the Inagawa-kai. In the dark cave, a few white lanterns in Japanese style hung on the wall, emitting a faint light. Under the dim light, the entire cave was filled with a faint blood color. The stench of decay was extremely thick, and it filled the mouth and nose, making it difficult for people to breathe. An old man wearing a black crown and a loose robe with a wide belt sat on a protruding mountain rock at the head of the table. He let the wind blow and the snow flutter, and his gaze was cold as he stared at the rolling blood mist in front of him. The cloud of blood mist was tumbling, and like a holographic 3D projection, it displayed many vivid images. It was the scene of Jiang Tian killing Li Zirong and the other traitors of the Xingyue family. Under his command were many Japanese ninjas and kendo masters. There were dozens of these ninjas. Some of them were as violent as lions and tigers, some were as heavy as mountains, and some were as light as the clouds in the sky. Most of them were famous chunin in Japan, and one of them was even a jonin. Chunin's cultivation and strength were comparable to Huaxia's Dao-reaching sorcerers or internal strength martial Dao masters. The power of a jonin was comparable to a transcendent state martial arts grandmaster or a dharma spell perfected cultivator of the ethereal enlightenment level. As for those kendo masters, each of them held the hilts of their katanas at their waists as they knelt on the ground with their backs ramrod straight. Their eyes were bursting with light, and they were like treasured swords that had been unsheathed, emitting a biting cold murderous aura that was unstoppable. Although the old man at the head of the table was already 80 years old, his teeth had all fallen out, and he looked like he was about to die. However, many ninjas and kendo masters did not dare to show the slightest disrespect to him. They all stared at this scene with reverence. This old man was a famous Onmyoji in Kyushu, the former president of the Sakura Society's Kyushu branch, and the current president of South Korea, Onpei Clear Kong. Whoosh! When the bloody scene ended, the chest of the old man with the tall black hat caved in. His shriveled mouth twitched and sucked all the blood mist into his mouth like a whale sucking in water. Mr. Onpei is indeed powerful. He is like a deity from the heavens. All the experts looked at the old man in the loose robe with reverence, their faces full of fear and apprehension. Master, who is this man? How can he be so powerful? Is he also a grand Onmyoji? Nobuo Nagasawa, the president of the Yamaguchi-gumi, furrowed his brows and asked in confusion. The Yamaguchi-gumi used to be in the Kyushu region. However, As the president of the Yamaguchi-gumi, he had been ordered by the leaders of the Sakura Society to expand his territory in South Korea. He had almost gained control of the entire underground world in South Korea. In the past, he had acted as a businessman, investor, and president of a large business association. In Seoul, he was able to drink and chat with the mayor. Anpei Clear Kong's wrinkled face turned serious as he said with a hoarse voice, "This is not a spell. This isn't a spell. It's the chi condensation weapon of Huaxia's martial arts. He is a grandmaster from Huaxia and has already reached the transcendent state." What? A grandmaster? Many people were shocked and couldn't believe their eyes. I have heard that it is extremely difficult to cultivate in Huaxia. Normally, one could only reach the internal force level at the age of 40. This young man is very young. Maybe he is a new grandmaster, Anpei Qingkong snorted. But it doesn't matter. Grandmasters are powerful, but I have mastered the blood poison divine art. Not to mention a young grandmaster who has just reached the transcendent state, I can even defeat a living fossil like Wang Chongyan. Unfortunately, he is already dead. Anger and resentment flashed in his eyes. 10 years ago, Anpei Clear Kong had a duel with Wang Chongyan in Jeju Island and was wounded by Wang Chongyan's fist of 6 paths of reincarnation. Therefore, he stayed at the back of Snow Mountain and controlled Lord Tanjuan's lineage. He cultivated diligently and comprehended some secret techniques from Wang Chongyan's Nanyang sorcery. He combined them with the Japanese yin-yang art and created the blood poison divine technique. He thought that he could at least defeat the peak transcendent state overlords in Huaxia. This young man was so young that he must have reached the initial transcendent state. What was there to be afraid of? Initial transcendent state. Then we can kill him. Yeah, Lord Anpei doesn't even need to do anything. We are enough. I haven't killed a grandmaster in Huaxia for a long time. My katana is thirsty for blood. There is no grandmaster in Huaxia. Humph, he is just a sick man in East Asia. That's right. If the Americans didn't drop the atomic bomb, Huaxia would have become our country and the people of Huaxia would have become our slaves. For a time, many ninjas and kendo experts were eager to fight, their spittle flying everywhere. They were eager to give it a try, and their killing intent soared. They were all members of the Cherry Blossom Society and had been influenced by militarism. They were extreme nationalists who couldn't accept the defeat of World War II. Moreover, they despised and hated Huaxia, a country that had brought them endless setbacks. They had been dreaming of making a comeback and taking over Huaxia. Well, we have a common enemy. What's there to worry about? The day is just around the corner. And Pei Ching Kong nodded lightly when he saw this, and his withered face was filled with gratification. Just as everyone was talking at the same time, suddenly, a berserk aura swept over. It was as if grenades were exploding one after another beside everyone's ears, followed by thunderclaps. Come out and face your death, you Japanese bastard. Bang! A genin who was shouting anxiously rolled his eyes and bled from his orifices. His body stiffened and fell to the ground on his back. He was actually shaken to death by Jiang Tian's demonic dragon roar. Jiang Tian stood in the main hall with his hands in his pockets, looking down at a group of tigers and wolves who had surrounded him. Tanjuan's branch had been completely occupied by the Cherry Blossom Society. There were ninjas, kendo masters, and many members of the Yamaguchi-gumi. They were all elites who could fight against 100 people. After Jiang Tian's roar, hundreds of Yamaguchi-gumi members rushed out with weapons such as katanas, baseball bats, and galvanized steel pipes. They surrounded Jiang Tian. Many of them were even carrying pistols. Oh my god, so many people. Yuan Ning and Chen Jiafu instantly became nervous when they saw this, and they broke out in cold sweat for Jiang Tian. Although they saw Jiang Tian jump and shoot dozens of meters, they were still worried and doubtful about whether Jiang Tian could defeat so many fierce people with guns and ammunition. Kill him. A man who looked like a leader waved his hand. Many of the society's experts climbed up the stairs to the top of the hall. They were as dense as a group of black ants. They raised all kinds of weapons and pounced on Jiang Tian. Even if Jiang Tian was only in the body refining realm, he could still fight against 100 of these ordinary people. Not to mention that he was already in the 5th level of Qi refining realm, and had cultivated the Gung metal divine body, reaching the 5th level of Qi refining realm. Ha, ants! In response, Jiang Tian only laughed coldly. He turned around and waved his finger. Qi! A dazzling, 10-meter-long saber radiance swept out, flickering with golden light. The golden blade aura swept in all directions like a rotating galaxy, forming a circle with a radius of 10 meters. Blood spurted out, and waves of blood rolled and surged like a tide. Shrill screams and cries of pain were continuous, making one's hair stand on end and scalp numb. The fierce people of the Yamaguchi-gumi were cut in half at the waist. There were more than 20 of them. Broken limbs, severed arms, heads, and organs rolled on the ground. Many people didn't die on the spot. Some held their intestines and severed legs and screamed miserably. Some rolled on the ground, and some wriggled slowly. There was blood everywhere. It was sticky and slippery when one stepped on it. The hall immediately became a hell on earth. The remaining fierce people of the Yamaguchi-gumi stopped in their tracks. They looked at Jiang Tian in horror, and their eyes almost popped out. They were also fierce people. Killing, arson, and fighting were common occurrences. Who hadn't been in danger? Who hadn't had their hands stained with blood? It could be said that their hearts were as firm as a rock and as hard as cold iron. But at this moment, when they saw the tragic scene, they were all terrified. Their legs went soft, and their clothes were already soaked in cold sweat. They had never seen such a domineering way of killing people. With just a wave of his hand, dozens of people fell. This was not like a human at all. It was more like a legendary demon god. Everyone's face was as pale as paper. They were so scared that their souls left their bodies. They trembled and didn't dare to take a step forward. Second generation head, what should we do? Many fierce people were panicking and slowly retreated. The second generation head was a capable person of the Iha Association. He was deeply trusted by President Changze. He was also a ruthless person. He made a prompt decision and roared, "Fire!" The people in the front row crawled on the ground or spread out, making way for the gunmen. More than 20 pistols were raised together. The black muzzles were pointed at Jiang Tian. It was as if they were going to shoot vicious bullets at the next moment and turn Jiang Tian into meat paste. Chapter 369. Jiang Tian, be careful. Chen Jiafu was so shocked that his legs turned to jelly, and his face turned red. It's over. It's over. Jiang Tian is finished. Yuan Ning covered her eyes, not daring to watch the tragic scene that was about to unfold. As a result, she missed the most exciting scene. Jiang Tian's face was calm and cold as he raised his right arm and spread his 5 fingers. Master of Gold. He could control all metal elements. Many people only felt a strong and irresistible suction force suddenly attacking them. It was as if there was an invisible sumo wrestler grabbing their guns and blades and pulling them over. The guns and blades all flew out of their hands and flew towards Jiang Tian. Some people were not willing to let go, and were actually dragged up into the air by this force. Jiang Tian waved his hand, and the guns and swords shot back at them like a gust of wind. Jiang Tian could control the metal elements. That was the power of the heavenly Tao. How terrifying was that? The guns and swords turned into the most violent cannonballs and smashed into the Yamaguchi-gumi members. Bang! Whoosh! Splat! The Yamaguchi-gumi members were even more miserable this time. Some of their chests caved in, and their heads exploded like watermelons. Some of their limbs were chopped off by the swords. This time, more than 40 Yamaguchi-gumi members were killed in an unnatural manner. These members usually practiced karate and kendo. They were usually arrogant in Japan and South Korea, and each of them could take on 7 or 8 people. However, in front of Jiang Tian, they were as weak as chickens and dogs. What? Is he a demon god? Everyone stood there dumbfounded, forgetting to attack and even forgetting to run. It was as if all the noise had been absorbed by an invisible sponge, leaving behind only a still image. Master is so powerful. He's like a god. In the distance, Li Jinju's eyes were filled with fascination. She wanted nothing more than to kneel down and worship Jiang Tian. Sigh, Master Kong is so amazing. This time, he will definitely turn the tide and save Tan Jun's family. Li Jinshi's body trembled slightly, and he clenched his fists again. His eyes were filled with admiration, shock, ecstasy, excitement, and anticipation. Many complicated emotions flashed past. So, there is such a powerful person in this world. Yuan Ning's fingers peeked out. She also saw this shocking scene and felt dizzy. What she saw today was the most unbelievable thing that she had seen in more than 30 years. It completely overturned her worldview. How are you going to rob, with my fists? Half an hour ago. Chen Jiafu still felt that Jiang Tian's words were nonsense, but now Chen Jiafu discovered that Jiang Tian's words were not exaggerated in the slightest. With this kind of strength, he was like a god. Wouldn't it be easy for him to obtain hundreds of millions of riches? All of you. I'm going to kill this bastard. A loud roar was heard. A figure holding a katana jumped out of the cave on the cliff. Like a big bird, he rushed towards the palace where Jiang Tian was. Many of the Yamaguchi-gumi members turned around to take a look. All of them revealed expressions of reverence and ecstasy as they exclaimed in surprise. Miyamoto-san. Miyamoto-san has made his move. This is great. This guy is no match for him. They instantly became confident and retreated, leaving the battlefield to this famous kendo master. There were many kendo schools in Japan, and they were known as the top 10 kendo schools. The Beichen one-sword school that Jiang Tian encountered was the most popular and had the most disciples. The Nidan one-sword school that Miyamoto Takeo belonged to was the most powerful kendo school in Japan. This school's swordsmanship was difficult to cultivate, but once mastered, it was extremely lethal. Although there weren't many disciples, every one of them was extremely talented and powerful. Miyamoto Takeo was in his 40s, but he had already reached the perfected level of kendo grandmaster. He was one of the top 10 kendo students in Japan and was many times more powerful than Chiba Masao and Chiba Masao that Jiang Tian had killed. Miyamoto Takeo leaped from the roofs of the halls like an eagle and reached the hall where Jiang Tian was in a blink of an eye. He stood on top of a bronze cauldron. The bronze cauldron was an antique that had been around for hundreds of years. It was made of bronze and was extremely heavy. It was used by Lord Tanjun and his followers to pray for blessings. It was as big as a water tank and weighed at least 3,000 pounds. Who are you? How dare you kill a member of the Yamaguchi-gumi? He was wearing a dark blue kendo suit and wooden clogs. A long katana and a short katana were hanging from his waist. His sharp eyebrows, aquiline nose, and glittering eyes gave him a sinister and powerful aura. His straight back made him look like an unsheathed sword. He was surrounded by a murderous aura. You don't have the right to know my name. Jiang Tianling snorted and smiled disdainfully. I kill the Japanese like I'm killing chickens and dogs. How dare you? Miyamoto Takeo was enraged. The bronze cauldron that weighed more than 1,000 pounds shot through the air toward Jiang Tian like a cannon. Fuck. What the fuck? A bronze cauldron that weighs a few thousand pounds, Chen Jiafu and Yuan Ning cursed at the same time. Their eyes widened in shock. After witnessing Jiang Tian's power, they knew that Jiang Tian was not an ordinary person. This Japanese kendo swordsman was not an ordinary person either. He was the same kind of person as Jiang Tian. They were worried again. This person should be more powerful than Jiang Tian and might even be able to kill Jiang Tian. Oh my god. I heard that Mr. Miyamoto Takeo is already a kendo master. He's as powerful as the Grand Masters of Huaxia. Many kendo masters, ninjas, and Yamaguchi-gumi were looking at Miyamoto Takeo with reverence. His strength was far beyond their imagination. He was too powerful. Like a cannonball, the bronze cauldron soared into the sky with a sharp whistling sound, and smashed down like a huge meteorite. Ha, that's all you got. Today, I'll show you the power of a Huaxia overlord. Jiang Tian smirked and hit the air with his finger. Whoosh! A sharp finger beam shot out, and with a loud bang, the bronze cauldron shattered like a piece of paper. It was like a grenade had exploded. Countless bronze shards flew in all directions like shrapnel, cutting through the wind and snow. Dozens of Japanese who were watching the battle were pierced by the shards and fell to the ground like bloody gourds. Awesome! Chen Jiafu's eyes were filled with shock as he let out a long breath. The way he looked at Jiang Tian was like how a believer would look at a god. Awesome! This time, Yuan Ning's view was surprisingly consistent with Chen Jiafu's. Jinju, you've made the right choice this time. There's hope for our Tanjun bloodline. Li Jianxi's face was filled with relief. He is a godlike man. Li Jinju's eyes were full of admiration. Her chest heaved up and down. Seeing this, Miyamoto Takeo's sinister eyes flashed. He wrinkled his aquiline nose and said in shock, "This is the true chi of Huaxia. Are you a grandmaster? Scared? Kill yourself if you're scared." Jiang Tian looked at Miyamoto Takeo indifferently as if he was looking at an ant. Humph. We Japanese have the spirit of samurai. We're not afraid of death. We'll never be like you Huaxia people. Miyamoto Takeo snorted and stomped on the ground. His body was as agile as a dragon. He rose to 20 meters above Jiang Tian and slashed down with his sword. Net of 1,000 blades. As the sword slashed down, the world was filled with murderous intent. Rays of sharp blade aura connected with each other and formed a net. It covered 20 meters of space and slashed down at Jiang Tian. Net of 1,000 blades. Too powerful. One blade can cut through metal, not to mention 10,000 blades. Even if this kid is made of iron, he will be smashed into meat paste. A group of people exclaimed in shock. They admired Miyamoto Takeo and thought that Jiang Tian was dead meat this time. Among the elites guarding Tanjuan's family, Qin Fan was the strongest. Other than Anpei Qingkong, no one was more powerful than Miyamoto Takeo in terms of combat power. Child's play. Do you Japanese martial artists only have this kind of rubbish? Jiang Tian smirked. Miyamoto Takeo was so angry that he wanted to yell at Qin Fan. But in the next second, his face was filled with shock. Jiang Tianxin reached out and grabbed the 10,000 blades net with his bare hands. It was as if he was tearing apart a piece of cloth. Crash! With a loud sound, the many blade lights all shattered, turning into a mass of chaotic aura and exploding one after another. How is this possible? Miyamoto Takeo's eyes widened as if he had seen a ghost in broad daylight. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. Each of his net of 1,000 blades was extremely sharp and could split a small car in half. There were so many of them, but this kid could tear them apart with his bare hands. Was he still human? If this is all you have, then stop wasting my time. It's time to end this. Jiang Tian stomped his feet and floated in the air. He closed in on Miyamoto Takeo with his hands behind his back. This man is a demon. Let's not talk about justice. Let's attack him together. Miyamoto Takeo shouted and pounced on Jiang Tian. He is a monster. Let's slay him together. Many Japanese kendo and ninjutsu masters leaped up and attacked Jiang Tian together. Ghost Shadow 9 kills. An intermediate level ninja, Takeda Nagafu, covered his face with a mask. His aura was as dark as a viper's. He formed a series of hand seals with both of his hands. His body suddenly split into 9 figures, each with different postures and moves. They charged at Jiang Tian from all directions. Bang! Jiang Tian didn't dodge at all. He punched one of the figures in the chest. How did you find out my real body? Takeda Nagafu spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. He looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. Bang! Jiang Tian didn't care about him at all. He stomped his foot down from the sky and turned his chest into meat paste. Then, he rose into the air again. Poor Takeda Nagafu died with his eyes wide open. Even in the end, he couldn't figure out how Jiang Tian could tell the difference between his real body and his clone. After that, Jiang Tian started to take the initiative to attack, and he attacked repeatedly. He was like a peerless swordsman who killed people with every step he took, and he reaped the lives of many ninjas and sword experts at will. Chapter 370. Jiang Tian flicked his finger, and the finger aura missed. A ninja in the shape of a fake mountain fell to the ground with blood and brain matter spurting out of his head. He waved his fingers. The golden blade aura was 10 meters long and slashed down. The samurai swords in the hands of 3 kendo masters shattered and were cut in half at the waist. Blood flowed out of their intestines, and they didn't even know how they died. Jiang Tian was like he was taking a stroll in the park. His posture was casual and carefree, but his vicious attacks caused many Japanese experts to feel fear and despair. He threw out the fireball talisman, and a fireball with a radius of more than 20 meters bloomed like a red cotton flower. Nobuo Nagasawa and a dozen Yamaguchi-gumi members were wrapped in flames. They screamed and turned into ashes in the blink of an eye. Jiang Tian slammed his palm down. A 10-meter-long golden chi palm fell from the sky like a Buddha's 5-finger mountain. Half of the palace collapsed, and 7 to 8 East Ocean kendo experts were turned into meat paste. In just a few breaths' time, Jiang Tian had killed more than 50 of Japan's top fighters. These people were all famous in Japan, but before Jiang Tian, they were like chickens and dogs, unable to withstand a single blow. This man is really a demon. How can he be so powerful? It's too scary. Retreat. Report to Lord Anpei. Please ask him to suppress this demon. At first, many Japanese masters fought with all their might, thinking that they could kill Jiang Tian with their numbers. But soon, they realized that the reality was crueler than they thought. Jiang Tian was much more powerful than they thought. Their blood turned cold faster than cow dung in winter. They were completely desperate. They turned around and ran in all directions. Jiang Tian wanted to laugh. Samurai spirit? They were just deceiving themselves. When encountering a true expert, they were more cowardly than anyone else in the face of the threat of death. The only ones who dared to resist were Miyamoto Takeo, Yagyu Shinyu, and a few other Japanese masters. However, they were almost beaten up like stray dogs by Jiang Tian. Yagyu Masayuki was a renowned jonin in the dark world of Japan. He practiced earth element ninjutsu and was as powerful as a perfected cultivator of ethereal enlightenment. His combat prowess was comparable to a transcendent grandmaster. Yellow earth ninjutsu, earth drill. His body transformed into a dark and gloomy earth element aura, hiding in the fake mountains and walls, appearing and disappearing like a ghost as he cast a secret art to attack Jiang Tian. As Jiang Tian activated his ninjutsu, a series of ninjutsu carried the yellow earth, like an earth dragon, suddenly turned into a sharp and sinister long awl, appeared between Jiang Tian's legs and suddenly stabbed out. Motherfucker, the Japanese are really evil. Jiang Tian directly stepped on the mound. In the distance, Yagyu Masahiro was hit by the backfire of his ninjutsu. Whoa! He spat out a mouthful of blood. His concealment ninjutsu had failed. He clutched his chest and staggered out from the wall, his face pale. Even as he was about to dodge, a shadow appeared in front of him. Wait, don't kill me. Seeing Jiang Tian's cold eyes, Yagyu Masayuki was terrified. He didn't have time to dodge. He could only beg for mercy, but Jiang Tian had already launched a wind blade. Puff! A gash appeared on Yagyu Masayuki's neck. Then, blood spurted out from his neck, sending his head a few meters into the air. His headless body fell to the ground. Nitten Ryu, esoteric art, will of sun and moon. Seeing this, Miyamoto Takeo's eyes turned red. With a roar, he lowered his waist and stomped his feet on the ground, crushing the several centimeters thick bluestone into pieces. The two swords in his hands danced wildly and then slashed out. He had been attacking Jiang Tian since the beginning, but Jiang Tian had dodged all of his attacks. His katana hadn't even touched Jiang Tian's clothes. Instead, many of his disciples and friends had been killed by Jiang Tian. It was an endless torment for him. He had used all of his strength in this attack. It was also the strongest attack in the Nitten Ichiro. The so-called Nitten referred to the sun and the moon. After the two swords slashed out, two spheres, one yin and one yang, appeared in the air. The moon's moonlight was cold like a full moon, while the sun's sunlight was hot and dazzling. The surrounding rockery, trees, snow, and eaves were all covered in a layer of white light. The sun and moon blade energy contained endless energy. It spun and slammed toward Jiang Tian. Although I haven't reached the highest level of the wheel of sun and moon, I can still condense the sun and moon, which can blow up an armored car. No matter how strong you are, you're just flesh and blood. Let's see how you can take it. After using this move, Miyamoto Takeo felt like he had run a marathon. He was exhausted and panting, but his face was confident and relaxed. But then, he was dumbfounded and complained incessantly. Tisk, tsk. You think you're worthy of using a sword? It's time to end this. Jiang Tian snorted. A black sword suddenly appeared in his hand, and he slashed it. The black sword slashed out a black line. After the slash, the energy of the Great Yin and Great Yang were like paper, shattering tragically. Damn it! How is this possible? Miyamoto Takeo's eyes were filled with shock. He couldn't believe what had just happened. He had never met a worthy opponent since he mastered the Nitten Ichiryu esoteric technique. He had killed countless Western martial arts masters, ancient Muay Thai masters, African black witchcraft masters, awakened Esper ability users, and even Indian yoga masters. He had never lost a single one. No, you can't break this move of mine. He roared and wanted to charge forward again. Miyamoto, you're no match for him. Back off. Suddenly, a voice came from the cave in the cliff hundreds of meters away. A figure crossed the distance of hundreds of meters and suddenly appeared in front of Jiang Tian. Mr. Ampere is here. We're saved. Seeing Ampere come out of nowhere, the members of the Japanese martial arts organizations all knelt on the ground as if they had seen a god. Mr. Ampere. Even Miyamoto Takeo knelt on the ground and worshipped the famous Grand Onmyoji. Master Ampere. Please kill this bastard and protect the dignity of the Japanese. Mr. Ampere, 13 of our Heiga ninjas have died. Please avenge us. Mr. Ampere, President Chungza is dead. Over 100 members of the Yamaguchi-gumi have died. Many Japanese overlords started to complain like children who had been beaten up by their parents. The most powerful fighter has come out. This is the end of Master Kang's life. Li Jianxi's heart skipped a beat as he saw the man appear. His eyes were filled with fear and concern. Why does he look so familiar? I think I've seen him on the news before. He was with the Prime Minister during a national event in Japan. Yuan Ning and Chen Jiafu were also shocked. This old man looked very old and his teeth were about to fall out. However, based on his powerful aura, it was clear that he was not easy to deal with. Japanese Grand Onmyoji, Ampere Chinkong. Li Jinju clenched her fists so tightly that her fingernails dug into her palms. Her eyes were filled with hatred. He was born in the Ampere family of Japan. He is the one who turned Lord Tanjuan's family into puppets. He is also the one who turned me into a half-human half-ghost. You are a transcendent grandmaster and know Dharma spells. You are a cultivator of both Dharma spells and martial arts, am I right? Anpei Qingkong was wearing a black high crown and a loose robe with a wide belt. His hair and beard were all white, making him look like a benevolent Taoist master. His old face showed a bit of astonishment as he looked at Jiang Tiandao inquisitively. You have a good eye, old man. What do you think? Are you scared? If you are, kneel down and surrender to me. I will spare your life. Jiang Tian's words were enough to infuriate anyone. The only person in Huaxia who is as young as you and has such a high cultivation level should be Grandmaster Jiang, who shocked the world. Ampere Qingkong wasn't angry. He looked at Jiang Tian and said with a cold smile. That's right, it's me. Anpei Qingkong was slightly shocked when he saw that it was indeed Jiang Tian. His aura froze for a moment before he asked in a cold voice, Grandmaster Jiang, our Cherry Blossom Society has no enmity with you. Why have you attacked our Cherry Blossom Society and killed so many people? Do I need a reason to kill a Japanese devil if I want to? Jiang Tian's infuriating skills were on full display again. Many Japanese overlords were so angry that their eyes turned red. Good. Very good. Grandmaster Jiang's aura is indeed soaring to the heavens, his domineering aura soaring to the heavens. Ampere Qingkong was not angry. Instead, he laughed. However, the next second, his face turned serious and he cracked a vicious smile. I've heard of your achievements. I heard that you've defeated Wang Chongyan at the Chinese Association of Singapore. You even killed the Russian expert Xiao Bin in July. Your achievements are glorious, and you're invincible. However, do you know what the Cherry Blossom Society means in Japan? It is like Blue Storm in the United States or the Pantheon in Western Europe. It is a superpower with a history of more than 100 years. It has countless kendo grandmasters, grand onmyojis, immortal state ninjas and even immortal state fighters. Furthermore, they have the support of Matsushita, Yamamoto, Sumitomo, and many other megacorporations. Their wealth can rival countries, and they have as many experts as there are clouds in the sky. Their strength far surpasses that of the Singapore Chinese Society and the Russian Winter Soldiers, and even your Dragon Group. If you dare to provoke the Cherry Blossom Society, you will die without a burial ground. Hee, Ampere, you scared the hell out of me. Jiang Tian was calm and unhurried. He smiled disdainfully and said, I didn't know that the Cherry Blossom Society was so powerful. But in my opinion, the Cherry Blossom Society is nothing. Coming to Snow Mountain is just the first step of my long journey. I'm going to step onto the 4 islands of East Asia and massacre everyone along the way. I'm going to wipe out the Cherry Blossom Society completely. This kid is so arrogant. So, he is the Master Kong of Huaxia. No wonder he is so powerful. But he doesn't have the right to ignore the Cherry Blossom Society. Everyone was stunned. Master Kang's achievements were impressive, but the Cherry Blossom Society had an immortal state fighter. The Winter Soldiers, the Chinese Society of Singapore and the Huaxia long history were no match for the Cherry Blossom Society. But he actually said that he wanted to wash Japan with blood and wipe out the Sakura Union. How arrogant was that? Chapter 371. It was like an ant trying to shake a tree. Very well, Kang Taechu, I admit that you are powerful. But if you want to wipe out the entire Cherry Blossom Society, you have to get through me first. Ampere Qingkong sneered and pulled out a bronze bell from his waist. It was mottled with copper rust and carried an ancient aura. He shook it quickly. Ghost Summoning Bell. Jiang Tian's face changed slightly. He looked at the bell curiously. It was very similar to the Ghost Summoning Bell, a common Dharma artifact in the cultivation world. It was powerful enough to control ghosts and ghosts. As the bell rang, Ampere Chinkong began to chant. His voice was dry and hoarse, like the sound of a broken arrow, but it had a soul-stirring power. Sorrow City, look at the dark clouds in the sky. They cover the sun. It is like a gloomy world of despair. His voice was low and sorrowful, and a feeling of extreme sorrow and despair pervaded the air. Those who heard it, even if they didn't understand Japanese, got goosebumps just from the low and rough accent. Their eyes reddened, and they couldn't help but want to cry. My loved ones are gone. My lover is dead. I sit in the dark and weep silently. The chanting voice was very low, and every word was like a bullet that pierced through everyone's heart, causing them great pain. Jiang Tian knew that this was a popular short poem in ancient Japan. It was called haiku. The rhythm was beautiful and the emotion was strong. In ancient Japan, it was like the poems of the Tang dynasty and the Song dynasty. Everyone could sing where there was water. Jiang Tian's immortal will was activated. As he chanted, a 3-meter-tall statue in a hall suddenly moved. The golden mud paint peeled off one after another, and it slowly opened its eyes. It stood up and looked around in confusion. At this time, Jiang Tian noticed that vine-like pipes had actually spread out from his back, connecting to the dozen or so followers of Lord Tan's branch around him. The tubes were made of flesh membrane like tentacles. Blood and pieces of flesh flowed inside and were injected into the body of the monster. It was full of vitality. The dozen or so followers of Lord Tan's lineage had already become haggard and skinny. Jiang Tian discovered that their blood and qi had long dried up. They were like dried corpses. Their eyes were tightly shut and they were motionless. This is an evil technique that devours flesh and blood. With one look, Jiang Tian understood what was going on. He felt disgusted. This method was similar to how Xiao Bin used the Taotai fish to absorb the blood vitality of martial artists. It was forcefully stripping and using the strength of other cultivators for his own use. It was even more primitive. Unexpectedly, it was directly injected into his body without any conversion. It was as if he was eating a living person. I looked down on the common people. Mortals are like ants, and human lives are like grass. In a mere few decades, they will be reduced to dust and soil. The haiku continued to chant. It was like a wake-up call, awakening the monster's spirit and consciousness. Break the clouds, I am the great demonic god that walks time. I can devour the heavens and devour the earth. I can use the flesh and blood of mortals like you as my nourishment to strengthen my body. Your life will continue in my body. The haiku suddenly changed its style. It was full of murderous aura and domineering aura, shocking people. Roar! The monster roared at the sky. Its roar shook the heavens and earth. Its body trembled and dust flew. Its body grew taller and taller, reaching more than 4 meters. Everyone was shaken by its roar. They all turned to look at the main hall. The monster's body grew taller again. It tore off many flesh tubes, causing blood to spurt out. With a rumble, it tore a hole in the roof of the main hall. It was already 4 meters tall, and its chest was exposed. What is this thing? Yuan Ning, Qin Jiafu, and the others were frightened out of their wits. Too scary. What kind of monster is this? Many people's faces changed drastically. They were terrified. The world changes. It is as unpredictable as the clouds in the sky. I am also temperamental. I can take away lives at will and destroy everything wantonly. As the haiku chanted, the monster grew taller again. Its body was 6 meters tall. Its hair was disheveled. It had a green face and fangs. Its only eye was looking at the sky. It roared like a fierce tiger, stopping the clouds in the sky and startling the flying snow. It took a step forward. Walls and houses collapsed. The earth shook. Dust and bricks flew everywhere. It walked out of the main hall and revealed its true appearance. It was a monster with hair and one eye. Its whole body was surrounded by blood and covered with blood-red scales. The monster's only eye glowed with blood-red light. It looked at everything with hatred. Its power was extraordinary. It was as if it wanted to tear the sky apart and smash the snow mountain into powder. My heart is as cold as ice and as hard as stone. Even the gods can't stop me from killing. The chanting of haiku was raised by several decibels. It was like tearing brocade and tearing silk. It was getting louder and louder, like an arrow piercing through the clouds. The monster's body expanded again. It was more than 10 meters tall. It was like a moving building. Dong! Dong! It took a step forward. The ground trembled. Houses collapsed. The rockery collapsed. Its huge feet stepped on the ground. Suddenly, the ground sank into a deep pit. The green bricks were shattered into pieces. I asked the heavens angrily. Why can't I live forever? Why must you suppress me? I will tear this world apart and kill all the gods. The last part of the haiku was full of anger and murderous intent. It conveyed a kind of anger that wanted to destroy everything. Kill. 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 The monster madly rushed out, taking large strides, madly rushing towards Jiang Tian. He was like a raging bulldozer, rampaging through everything in his path. Dust flew into the air as the walls of the courtyard collapsed one after another. Loud bangs rang out in succession as the halls of the courtyard were sent flying. The ground trembled like the skin of a drum, and even large trees that required a person to wrap their arms around were sent flying by the impact. Is this a shikigami? Something's not right. Jiang Tian looked at Anpei Qingkong and asked curiously. Shikigami, also known as shikigami, were spirits or monsters that were raised by onmyojis to serve their master. The ancestor of the Anpei family was Anpei Qingkong, who was known as Jiang Zia. He was the one who created the shikigami. It was said that he had 12 shikigami under his command. He used spells to summon and control each shikigami. Each shikigami was invincible on the battlefield. During the Edo period, Anpei Qingkong and his family were highly valued by the Tokugawa shogunate. However, according to Jiang Tian's understanding, shikigami should be spirits. They were more powerful than ghost soldiers, ghost generals, and ghost kings, but they should be a kind of soul energy. Originally, spirit-branded retainers were also enshrined in temples and worshipped by believers and countrymen. They were formed from the accumulation of psychokinesis. However, this monster didn't rely on soul energy or the power of faith to survive. Instead, it fed on human flesh. It also had a physical body and was full of vitality. It was purely physical, so it didn't look like a shikigami. Humph. Do we need those old shikigami to kill you? This is the new shikigami raised by the Anpei family, the ancestor of zombies, Ingo. Anpei Qingkong snorted and said arrogantly, when the Guangdong army occupied the northeast, they fought for 3 days and 3 nights with the anti-Japanese coalition forces in the Jiaozhan Ridge. Countless people were killed and injured. Blood flowed and dyed the earth red. The blood also attracted the zombie king, who was buried deep underground and suppressed by the warlocks of Huaxia for hundreds of years. He killed everyone he saw in the Jiaozhan Ridge in the northeast. Huaxia and Dongyang bombarded him with artillery for 3 days and 3 nights, but they couldn't kill him. In the end, it was my great-grandfather, the Grand Onmyoji Anpei Luyun, who calmed him down with the ghost summoning bell and the yin-yang secret method. Then he was raised by us. Anpei Qingkong shook the bell and said contemptuously, he began to take charge of Lord Tanjuan's branch 10 years ago. Now he has absorbed the blood of dozens of masters in Lord Tanjun. His strength is comparable to an immortal state master. Kang Te-chu, how many heads do you have for him to crush? What a powerful blood qi. At this moment, even Jiang Tian was a little tempted. The blood qi in Ingo's body was even more powerful than the blood qi formed by Qiaobin gathering more than a dozen masters on Moling Lake. If Jiang Tian were to absorb and refine all of this blood qi, his cultivation would most likely increase by another level. However, when he thought about how his blood qi was refined by absorbing the flesh and blood of Lord Tanjuan's branch, he felt a little disgusted. While speaking, the zombie king Ingo had already run to Jiang Tian. Blood qi surged around his body like magma. His large hand that was the size of a round table waved downwards, sweeping out to grab Jiang Tian. Huaxia boy, I'm going to swallow you alive to strengthen my blood qi. Ingo's voice was like thunder, rolling out and shaking everyone's eardrums. Chi chi chi. His sharp nails collided with the roof like a hook machine, and more than half of the roof of the palace collapsed. Such a big monster, so scary. Be careful. Seeing this scene, Yuan Ning and Qin Jiafu were scared out of their wits, and their legs went weak. I didn't expect that the god we worship day and night is actually a zombie. Li Jianqi's eyes were filled with fear. Master, go for it. Li Jinju clenched her fists and murmured. Whether or not they could save Lord Tanjuan's branch depended on this peak battle. Qi. Jiang Tian waved his finger, and a dazzling golden qi weapon that was 10 meters long slashed toward Ingo's hand. Oh no! He used this move to kill Yagyu Masayuki. Seeing this, Miyamoto Takeo was shocked. It's okay. It's just a qi weapon. It can't hurt Ingo Zombie King. Ampere Clear Kong was full of confidence. Ingo had a few hundred years of life and killed countless experts. He was also invincible on the Sino-Japanese battlefield. He could swallow the blood of hundreds of Huaxia soldiers in one breath and turn them into dried corpses. In the battles between the Japanese and international powerhouses, he had never lost a single battle. Martial arts grandmasters, mixed martial arts experts, S-level superhumans, werewolves, and blood breeds were all killed by Ingo. According to the legends, Jiang Tian was very powerful. It was said that he was half an immortal state warrior or even an immortal state warrior. However, Ampere Clear Kong had just sensed Jiang Tian's power and found that he didn't have the energy of a powerful martial artist. He guessed that Jiang Tian was just an ordinary transcendent grandmaster. If he was just an ordinary transcendent grandmaster, he would be no match for Ingo. As expected, Ingo's hand was cut off by the wind blade, but it was immediately pulled back by the blood qi and reformed. Then, it continued to grab at Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian dodged the attack, and his body rose higher and higher. He waved his hands in the air. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.